All right. Lock and load, Razor Force, for a very special Streaming for Vengeance, where I, your intrepid host, Razor Fist, will dissect the autismonauts in the present political paradigm. For a query or comment, hit us up at the link atop your screen. I'll be periodically rifling through your super chats like the IRS through a list of Biden's political enemies. But in the meantime, folks, thank you for joining me. It is Streaming for Vengeance. We are going to be covering the debate. Let me go ahead and get everything all set up. Okay, I got your chats on the screen. I'm a bit of a boomer, so please bear with me. We are streaming live on Twitch, streaming on Rumble. We are on the YouTubes, at least for now. Don't worry, I'm going to be turning the sound up in a moment. Oh, here we go. It looks as if they are about to throw it to it. I'm going to turn up the volume just a hair on this.
Upended just weeks ago, President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls.
Battlegrounds, separated by the smallest of margins. Before we even get in here, I want to say I've been seeing the MAGA faithful trumpet Trump's poll numbers for the last week or so, and I have to caution you, it looks an awful lot like a setup for them to blow billows of smoke up your asses post-debate as they spin the narrative of Kamala triumphant. Don't say you weren't warned as you proceed to keister the black pill. That's all I'm saying. Believe what you want, but I've been very, very incredulous of the polls even when they show Trump ahead. You have to understand this is, the polls are essentially a manipulation tactic at this point.
Thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want
to welcome
viewers watching on ABC.
We go live to ABCCP.
Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential.
You sure you're Lindsay Davis? I want a DNA test.
Day, now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st.
Speaking of CCP, tonight I've embroidered my underwear with the names of successful socialist countries. That's right, friends. I am freeballing it. All right, so
tonight's debate,
oh wait,
90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks, no topics or questions.
Got a few little super chats here.
Will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock.
I am going to be paying a little attention to Rumble. Please bear with me. I'm flying solo here. You know, like DSP.
Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed.
Okay.
There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates.
Stealth Creations. The limited edition ultra-right beer cans will feature former President Trump's perp image with the words "revenge, not for drinking." Is Razor thinking of getting it for memorabilia or to hold on to? Honestly, I still need to buy a shirt with that image on it. We made one. Taryn made one, and it's boss. Oh, here we go. Okay.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Oh, so this is how we're going to pronounce her name tonight. I say,
welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started.
I can't figure out if this is an episode of Celebrity Apprentice or Celebrity Rehab.
I don't know. And the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
No.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
Yes, please. So woman in a $70,000 Tiffany necklace. Tell us of the fiscal travails of the working man.
I'm the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations,
makes a switch from falling to your knees
of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need
Seems like you can hear it, guys.
To raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the
you know how much Democrats love tax cuts
that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children.
A crib.
My
Speaking of
passion, one
cribs,
them
let's
is
rap
small
about the
businesses.
merits
I
of
was
abortion.
actually- my mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan
We've
is
made
to
lots
give
of businesses a lot smaller.
$50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide
Which
a
is
tax
have the
cut
best
for
economy in American
billionaires
history?
and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call
Kamala
the Trump
Harris
sales
pretending to
tax,
care about the
which
deficit.
would be a 20%
This is
tax
nice.
on everyday goods that
This
you
is-
rely on.
This
to
is
get
richer
through
than
the month.
chocolate satin pie. Okay,
Economists
let's
have
hear
said
this.
that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
What?
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Was that a sentence?
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after
He does kind of
75
have the
years, pay us
Jefferson
back for
plan
all
for
that
the
we've done for
funding.
world.
We could talk about that a
And
little later.
The tariff will be substantial in some
Thomas
cases.
Jefferson,
I
I
took
mean.
in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never
China,
took the tariff
the first
off because
China
there's
of the
so
night,
much money
folks.
they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China.
They're
and other
ripping us
places.
off
They've
on
left the
trade.
tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation.
You can't hear it? Let me
look,
turn it up a
we've had
little
a
bit, but keep in mind,
terrible
guys, there's a
economy
lot of
because
copyright
inflation
stuff.
has-
I don't
which
want to
is
get
really
it
known as
too
a country
loud.
buster. It breaks up countries.
All right?
We have inflation
Just
like
bear
very
with
few
it.
people have
We-
ever seen before.
we do have
Probably
subtitles,
the worst
so
in our nation's
to
history.
compensate.
We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are
China,
50, 60, 70,
China.
80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people
For the
pouring
middle
into our
class
country
and for
from
no class.
prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at
here we
Aurora
go.
in Colorado. They are
Time to
taking
talk about
over
the Calico
towns. They're
Cat
taking over
casserole, huh?
buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the
Harris
highest
Walls
level of
2024. A
criminality,
Haitian in every
and we have to
driveway
get
and a
them out.
tabby
We have to
cat
get
in
them
every
out
pot.
fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump
This
left
talking
us
point didn't
the
work when
worst
Biden
public
said it, and I
health
don't know that it's going to work any
epidemic
better with
in
her.
a century. Donald Trump left us.
This is like the word
worst
for word
attack
the
on
same
our
talking point.
democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are
mentioned
the
I got back from
aspirations
the
and hopes
grocery
of the
store
American
earlier.
people. But I'm going to tell you all on this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook. A bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling.
Bitch, we're
What you're
buying
gonna hear
gas
tonight
on an installment
is a
plan under
detailed
your
and
administration.
dangerous
You want to
plan
explain
called
how that
Project
isn't your fault?
2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly.
Is there a single
that the
pinko
American
platitude
people
Kamala
want
can
a
regurgitate that
president
Trump
who
couldn't counter by
understands the
holding up a
importance
gas station
of
or grocery
bringing us
receipt?
together,
Like,
knowing
seriously.
we have so much more in
Anyone?
common than what separates us, and I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Here we go.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917 where 100 million people died. has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the
Your
pandemic.
running mate remembers
We handed them
1917,
over
right?
A country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world.
What is
We got
that
gowns,
look?
We got masks. We did things that nobody thought
She's
possible.
got that righteous,
And
I
people
just
give
smelled
me
a
credit
fart
for
face
rebuilding
going
the
on, like-
military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not
Also,
enough
I
credit
like
for
that
the
she
great
didn't
job we
spring
did
for
with
the
pandemic.
pre-election
But the
jowl
only jobs they
surgery
got
that
were
Hillary
bounce
Clinton
back
did.
jobs. These
Like,
were
she's
jobs
got-
bounce back, and it bounced back, and it went to their benefit.
Got the
But
old
I
Raymond
was the one that
Chandler. She had
created
a
them.
face
They
like
know
a
it,
bucket
and
of
so does
mud.
everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So, Donald Trump
So this
has
is
no
already
plan for you.
different than the last debate, by the way.
And when you look
One
at his
response
economic
per
plan,
question
it's all about tax
was
breaks
the last
for the
one.
richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists
What you
in our
describe as
country,
an-
if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the
Goldman
economy.
Sachs,
What
she
the Wharton
says.
School has said is Donald Trump's plan
Well, folks,
would actually explode.
talk about
the
a reverse
deficit.
endorsement. God, that's
16
like Dick
Nobel
Cheney.
laureates have described
Goldman
his economic
Sachs.
plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no
I'd like
plan
you to know
for
that I've been endorsed
because
by
he is
Goldman
more
Sachs,
interested
the
in defending
Shredder, and
himself
Dr.
than
Evil.
he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Her
President, I do
website
wanna
didn't
drill down
even
on something
have
you both
a
brought up.
positions
The
page
Vice
until
President
like a
brought
day
up
ago.
Tariffs, you responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with
The
tariffs at that
ABC
level,
moderator
costs
is
are then
much
passed
more
on to the
proactive
consumer.
than the CNN
Vice
ones.
President Harris has
You
argued
can
there'll
already
be higher
see.
prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years.
Ripping-
I
he
thought I was
he
the
almost
only
said it.
president ever.
He almost said
China
it.
was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries.
Yeah.
And you know, if she doesn't
How's the
like
current
them, they
arrangement
should have
looking?
gone
Our
out and they
currency's
should
more
have
inflated than
immediately
Janice
cut the
Dickinson's
tariffs, but
lips.
Those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration.
Quick, Kamala,
We're
the
gonna
economy's
take in
inflated. Fall to your knees and
billions
suck
of
it out.
dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because
Perhaps.
I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't
probably
go out
take
and
the
buy
perhaps
cereal
out of
or
that.
bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because
This
the
is now
Biden
the
administration
third
did
response,
keep,
guys.
A number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about
Invited
his
trade
deal
wars?
with China?
With
what
who?
He ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us
How much
out
money are you
when a
getting from
policy
China
about China
right
should
now,
be in
Kamala?
making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up
I think she
having
did
the-
get
on the
confused with
short end of the
Taiwan,
stick
actually.
in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point. When we know
What tweet?
that Xi
You
was
had his
responsible
Twitter account
for
taken
lacking and
down.
not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips
Yep.
anymore because of philosophies like they have and
Oh!
policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she did 4 years ago is out the window.
Whoa!
She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat.
This was a
She's
big
gone to my
mistake.
philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change
They
it.
kept giving
And
her
it will
responses
be
because
the
they
end
knew
of
she
our
had
country.
teed up
She's a
responses, and now they've
Marxist.
gone too
Everybody
far.
knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist
Oh!
professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country,
She looks like
monthly,
she wants to
where
speak
it's,
to
I believe,
America's
21
manager.
million people,
Problem
not the
being, she
15 that
is
people
America's
say,
manager.
and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State.
Yeah, this
pouring
was
in.
a
And just
gross
look at what they're
tactical
doing to
error
our
right
country.
here.
They're
Trump was
criminals.
kind of
Many
on the
of these
ropes for
people
a second
coming in
there,
are
but
criminals.
boy,
And
they
that's
squandered
bad for our
that.
economy too. You know, you mentioned before. We'll talk about immigration.
Oh, this
later.
was a
Well,
bad move.
Immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump.
I want to turn to the issue of
Ooh,
abortion.
that
President
dude.
Trump often touted that you were able to kill
He
Roe v.
literally
Wade.
took
Last
a
year, you
point
said
where
that
he
you
was
were proud
slightly
to be the
behind.
most
Like, I don't think he was
pro-life
getting his ass
president
kicked
in
or anything,
American
but I think he
history.
was
Then
slightly
last
on the
month, you
ropes
said that your
there.
administration
And he
would be great for
completely
women and their
Uno-reversed that.
reproductive
Just
rights.
whoa.
In your home state of Florida, you surprised many.
Huge
with regard to the
miscalculation.
6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that
They
it was
shouldn't
too
have
short.
given
You
him
said,
that many
"Quote, I'm
responses.
gonna be
If they
voting
had
that
left
we
it at 1 or
more than
2,
6
he would have
weeks."
been
But
dead
then
to
the
rights.
very next day, you reversed course.
ABC
and said
did
you would
that
vote to
right
support
there.
the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job.
Yeah.
But the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why
This woman Sledge has a higher body count than Al Qaeda.
Vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also
Oh,
says
boy, she can't wait to talk about
execution
abortion.
after birth. It's execution, no longer
Her mouth
abortion,
is
because
watering at the
baby
thought
is
of killing
born.
kids. This is just...
okay, and that's not okay with me. Hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states, and through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to
Who
do
received
that. Now,
death
I believe in
threats.
the exceptions for
And probably
rape,
still
incest,
are.
and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it.
Didn't
Ronald
they
Reagan
riot
did
in
also.
front of some of the Supreme Court
85% of
justices'
Republicans do.
houses?
Exceptions, very important. But we were
I'm sure
able to
people
get it,
Kamala's
and
bailed
now
out of
states
prison.
are voting on it, and for the first time, you're going to see. Look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote, and that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Tell that to
as I said,
Kermit
you're here for
Gosnell.
reasons, and that's not
Pardon?
actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here.
Yeah. I believe the
Donald Trump
Constitution is a living document.
hand-selected
Maybe
3
one day
members
I'll
of the
feel the
United
same
States
about a
Supreme
fetus
Court
with a
the
heartbeat.
intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse
Trump
to provide
abortion
health
bans.
care. In one state, it provides
I wish
prison
there
for
were
life.
Trump abortion bans, but there are
Trump
not.
abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor
Most of your sex
a
life?
crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what
Yeah, we get it,
happens to
Kamala.
their
Your
body
womb
next.
looks like
That
the
is
fields of
immoral.
Verdun. We got it.
And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have
She is
talked
the
with
only
women
one who wants the
around
federal
our
government to be
country.
able to tell
You
women
wanna
what they
talk
can
about
do with
this
their
is
own
what
body.
people wanted?
Trump sent the issue to the
Pregnant
states.
women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering
This is
from
the
a
warp and
miscarriage,
frame.
being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that.
All right,
Her husband
moderator,
didn't want
now
that.
fact check that
A 12 or
cartoonish statement.
13-year-old
Is she
survivor of
citing a
incest
news story?
being
Or is that a
forced to
complete
carry a
lie? You
pregnancy
corrected
to
Trump a
term.
moment ago.
They don't want that.
Come on,
And
you
I pledge
pan-faced
to you,
bitch. Pipe up.
When Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people
What?
believe
What?
that certain freedoms,
What?
in particular the freedom to make
How does
decisions
sending
about
it
one's own
to the
body
states create
should
a
not be made
federal
by the government.
database to track
Thank
your
you, Vice
abortions and
President
miscarriages?
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's
Yeah.
no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and
Come on,
everybody
Kamala,
else,
let the
and
babies be
every
born.
legal
Think of it as
scholar wanted
another
to be
food
brought
source
back
for
into the
Haitian
states,
refugees.
And
No
the
big
states
deal.
are voting, and it may take a little
It's a
time.
joke, people.
But
Relax.
for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote.
Yep.
Especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote.
Less than
She can't get the
20% of
vote.
the
She won't even
nation
come
are
close to it.
passionately
So it's just
pro-abortion.
tough. You know what it reminds me of? When
According
they
to
said
the
they're
most,
gonna get
like,
student
liberal
loans
internal
terminated,
polls.
And it ended up being a total
Like,
catastrophe.
not even 50-50. He's
The student
overselling
loans,
it
and
there.
then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. The boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea.
Oh, Jesus.
And how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that.
He's just
that they
going
talk
off.
About abortion.
But if I could just
And
get a
anyone
yes or
else
no,
getting,
because
like,
you're running
earpiece
me,
vibes from
JD
her a little
Vance
bit?
has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with JD.
Ah,
In all
no,
fairness,
no fact
JD,
check on the
and
girl
I
bleeding
don't
out in the
mind
parking
if
lot,
he
though,
has
huh?
a
You
certain
mean-faced
view, but
cunt?
I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look,
Gotcha.
we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it. Just
Yeah,
like she couldn't
you can
get
see
student
what's going
loans. They
on
couldn't
here.
get
This is
student
going to
loans.
be
They didn't even
Candy
come close to
Crowley
getting
on
student
crack.
loans.
Anyone
They
remember that
taunted
little
young
display from
people
2012?
And a lot of other people that had loans. They can
We're
never
going to have a
get this
Candy
approved.
Crowley
So it doesn't
situation.
matter what she says about going
And
to
then we're going to
Congress.
have the
Well, wonderful.
polls
Let's
spin
go to Congress,
afterward.
do it.
Watch.
But the fact is that for years
Watch.
they wanted to get it out of
He's
Congress
doing
and
great,
out of
though,
the federal government, and we did
on the
something
repost.
that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as you
The law that was
rightly
even
mentioned,
easily overturned? What?
nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy.
Roe
to
v. Wade
term
clearly
and
didn't protect your
asking
abortion.
for
Like,
an
what?
Abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray
What abortion
and
bans?
dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working
I
one
know
or
all
two
about
jobs,
working women,
who can
being
barely
one
afford
myself.
childcare as it is.
This woman's had so many
have to
black
travel to
politicians
another
inside her, you'd
state
think she was a prison.
to get on a plane, sit
Relax,
next to
it was a
strangers,
joke. It was
to go and get the health care.
anyone
she
joining us from
needs.
Tim Pool or Nick
Barely
Fuentes.
can
I'll explain
afford
what a
to do
joke
it,
and a
what you
punchline
are
is after the
putting her
stream. Don't worry
through
about it.
Is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond.
You don't
Another
want the
lie.
American people to
Another
be
lie.
able to vote
I
for
have
what
been
you
a
construe
leader
as
on
freedom.
IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader.
She wants to take
In
it
fact,
out of their hands. Roe v.
when they
Wade
got
wasn't
a very
voted on,
negative
and
decision
it was
on
illegal.
IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing,
I've fertilized so many women.
you should ask, will she allow
Ask the
abortion
girls at
in
the
eighth
Miss
month,
America
ninth
pageant.
month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that?
Oh, they didn't mute her mic. That's
Why
interesting.
don't you
That's
answer
the
the
problem.
question?
Huh.
Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question, would you veto?
could
Curious.
do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month.
not true.
And
This is full
probably
Candy
after
Crowley
that.
mode,
Just
guys.
look at
That's
the
what we're
governor,
watching
former
here.
Governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were
That didn't
tasked
go
by
very well
President
for her.
Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that
So
illegal
only
border
one
crossings
person's
reached a record
mic is
high
muted.
in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then
Are
have
they going to
dropped
tee her up for
significantly.
the I'm
But my
speaking?
question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to
It would be
act?
epic if
And
he
would
did
you have done
my speak.
anything
I'm
differently
speaking.
from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of
Yeah,
guns,
for nonviolent drug
drugs,
offenses.
and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill,
Oh, my
which
God.
I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those
Have you
folks who
seen
are
the
working
border,
there right
bitch? It's
now
like the Boston
overtime trying
Marathon
to
with
do their
maracas.
job.
What are you talking
It
about?
would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations.
And of course, none of that
for
happened, but, you
trafficking in
know,
guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, "Kill the bill." And you know why?
Because you
he preferred
jammed
to
more
run on a
pork
problem
into it?
instead
Like-
of fixing a problem.
Jesus.
And understand
That bill was a pork
this
chop
comes
sandwich.
at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand.
Yeah.
But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer
Kamala's
to run on
only
a problem
solution is
instead of
fentanyl,
fixing a
once you
problem.
dissolve it in
And
water.
I'll tell you something. He's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course
Yeah,
of his
people
rallies,
are
he
actually
talks
at
about
it, and there's
fictional
no rap
characters like
concert.
Hannibal Lecter, He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what
What?
you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is
I've
you.
been to a couple. That
You will
didn't
not hear
happen.
him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
You
Vice President
already
Harris,
are
thank you. President
in
Trump, on that, I want
office.
to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional
First, let me respond
Here we
to
go.
the rallies.
The fourth member of the
Said
debate.
People start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there. And then showing them in a different
Oh, no!
So she can't talk about
Oh,
that. People
no!
don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take the country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation.
God.
And it happened 3.5 years ago.
Tell us about immigration,
And
lady who's trying to
what's going
outsource
on
the
here,
presidency
you're
to
gonna end up
India.
in World War III, just to go into another subject, what they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United
This
States.
is
And a lot of towns don't
backfiring
wanna talk. It's not
biblically.
gonna be
This is
Aurora or
not
Springfield.
going well
A lot
for
of towns
them.
don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In
It's like they'll
Springfield,
score a body
they're
blow,
eating the
and then he
dogs,
just hits
the
him with a
people that came
haymaker.
in. They're eating the cats. They're eating.
Oh, he's talking about the cats!
The people that live there.
Anyway,
And this
here's
is what's
Kamala's
happening in
recipe
our
for
country,
calico
and it's a
casserole.
shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
Wow.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield,
Between
Ohio,
Kamala and the
ABC News
ATF,
did reach
can't
out to the
decide if
city
we're opening a
manager there.
Haitian
He told
restaurant
us
or a
there
Haitian
have been
firing
no
range. I
credible
don't know.
reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by
Oh, they're
individuals
gonna fact
within the
check
immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've seen
this.
people on
The thing
television
people
say
have
this.
seen?
People on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this.
People on television say my dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest.
They were complaining to the Springfield city manager at a public meeting. No kidding, he says there's no
You know,
problem. He's the one they're
this is, I
complaining
think, one of
to.
the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement
Talk
of
about a
former
reverse
Vice
endorsement.
President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who
That'll win over the
former
independents.
president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive.
Let's see if she can land this
another
body blow.
Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is
You're in off. It's your job to address them.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things.
Never
or
should have
bad
hired
jobs.
him, to be
I fired
fair.
them.
This
They
is a
never
fair
fired one
criticism
person.
she's pointing
They
out
didn't
there.
fire anybody
Granted,
having
it
to do
also
with
applies to her,
Afghanistan
but
and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed, and I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations.
That's how I feel about
anybody
John Bolton,
has
T-Rump.
ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job.
This is her
and they
4th year in
never
office,
fire
guys. Keep
anybody.
this all in
Look at the
mind.
economy. Look at the inflation.
And she was in
They
Congress
didn't
before
fire
that.
Any of their economists, they have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than
It's
any
true.
sitting president in history by far.
That is true.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president
did not
has
land the
reacted
body
to
blow,
as
and he
well.
knocked it back.
President
Like,
Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation
I feel like
operation in
halfway
history
through
of
the
our country.
debate, they're
You say
kind
you
of
would use
getting
the
that they
National
can't
Guard. You
give
say if things
too
get out
many
of control, you have,
responses, or she
no
winds
problem
up getting
using the
buried.
US
Are you guys
military.
noticing this?
You also said you would use
There's
local
fewer
police.
responses
How
now.
would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals.
They're
They
not
allowed
sending their
people
best.
to come in, drug dealers to come into our country, and they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why?
Uh-oh.
Because they've taken their criminals
He
off
got
the
this
street
talking
and they've
point.
given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes. But it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed.
It's funny,
the
earlier
fabric
today,
of our
speaking
country.
of the votes and
Millions
whatever,
of people
I got a
let in,
Kamala
and
ad
all
on
over the world,
television
crime is
in
down
Spanish.
all over the world except here.
Just in
Crime
case you're
here is up and through
at
the
all
roof,
confused as to
despite
what
their
Kamala's
fraudulent
strategy here
statements that
is
they
here
made.
with the illegal
Crime
aliens.
in this country is through the roof, and we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud.
He just fact-checked the fact-check.
18,000 jobs that they said they created.
It's like,
turned out
okay,
to be
bitch, you want to be the
President
fourth
Trump,
member of the
I'll let you
debate.
respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been
I think your
prosecuted
pantsuit is pretty rich.
for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important
Yeah.
about respect
And I'm
for
busy
the rule of
prosecuting
law
his
and
voters.
respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents. Get this.
Oh, no, not
on the day after
defunding,
he was
getting rid
arraigned on
of.
34 felony counts. So let's talk about what
And
is
he-
important.
and don't do
in
it with a
this
shovel,
race.
do it
is
with a
important
backhoe.
That we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs
And
of the
elect
American
a
people.
career
Address
politician
what we
who's
need to
already in
do
office,
about
making
the
things worse.
housing shortage, which I have
Turn
a
the
plan for.
page.
Address what we must do to support our small businesses. Address bringing
Turn the
down
page,
price
folks,
of
by electing the
groceries.
lady who's already in
But
office.
frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. You saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved
It's
with
true.
the
They didn't
DOJ,
pursue
from
any of these
Atlanta
charges
and
until he
Fani
ran
Willis
against
to
Democrats.
the Attorney General of New York. And the
True or
DA of
no?
New York. Every one of those cases.
Some of these
and
date
then
back 20
they
plus
say,
years.
Oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election.
President
They're
Trump.
fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
He's
Well,
not
let's
letting
talk
it
about
slide. This is
extreme
feeling
and
more
understand
like.
the context in which this
Well, let's let
election
her
in
respond.
2024 is taking place.
I want to
The
hear.
United
I want to see
States
this
Supreme
fecal blizzard.
Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. understand this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States.
What?
That he would weaponize
Who believe? Does the most deranged leftist on planet Earth believe that statement ever came out of Trump's mouth?
Expressed disdain.
Anybody?
For members of our military.
Way too far on that.
What it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails. Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me.
Whoa!
About democracy.
Okay.
The threat.
Bringing up the whoa.
Russia investigation.
We do have a lot
that
to get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President
We have a
Harris,
lot
in
to
your
get
last
to,
run
and
for
we have to
president, you
continue
said you wanted to
burying
ban
the memory of
fracking.
your
Now
assassination
you don't.
attempt.
You wanted mandatory government
Whoa.
programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You support
Okay.
border
I did
crossings.
not expect
now you're
that.
taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So
Break
my
out the kid
values have
gloves.
not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation
So
Reduction
your policy
Act,
did change.
which
Moving on.
opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we
His
have got
face.
to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history.
That's like a
because of an
George
approach that
Alexopoulos
recognizes
political
that
cartoon
we
face right
cannot
there.
over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked
Raised
and
by a
saved
hardworking
and was
mother.
able to buy our first home when I was a
She
teenager.
keeps jeting to
The
that.
values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed
I
$400
could not
million
listen to
on a
what this
silver
old
platter
man
and
was
then filed
saying.
bankruptcy 6 times.
All I could think of
is
was
a
the
value
lovely
that I bring
CJ
to
and
my
her bright
work
red
to
water
say
panties.
We are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded
Violent crime.
importance
I think
of
Tulsi
standing
Gabbard
up
called
for
you out
those
on
who
the
are most
violent crime
vulnerable.
thing.
My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on
Kamala wants to
long-standing
jail
work that
Jan
I have
Sixers
done,
so much you'd think they were
protecting
guilty of
seniors from
nonviolent
scams.
drug offenses.
My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
His face.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot
Yeah,
from
didn't
him,
he
but
give
I was
him like
given
a
fraction
$10
of
million
that, a tiny
loan or a
fraction.
$1 million?
And I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She
marched in a defund the police rally with Jussie Smollett. Shall we talk about the lynching that conveniently happened after she pushed the lynching bill?
She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was
That whole
big on
episode
defund
wasn't
the police.
fishier than Amy
In
Schumer's
Minnesota,
crotch on a
she
warm
went
day.
out- Wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please.
Ah, he did it!
Does that sound familiar?
He did it!
She went out
Oh no!
in Minnesota and wanted to let
What?
criminals that killed people.
I did
that
not
burned
think-
down Minneapolis. She went out
I
and
did
raised money
not
to get 'em out
think
of
that
jail.
was gonna
She
happen.
did things that nobody would ever think of.
What?
Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens.
The
that are in
first
prison.
person
This is a
to say I'm speaking
liberal that
was
would do
Donald
this. She wants
Trump.
To confiscate your guns,
We could just
and she
end the
will never allow
stream,
fracking in
honestly.
Pennsylvania.
What?
If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. just to finish one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over,
You know all about lube, right, Kamala?
And the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back.
The memory of filing taxes this year is still fresh in my memory.
Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some
filing
energy
taxes
to
in
come
2024
out.
is like a
solar
do-it-yourself
plant? By the way,
ass
I'm
fucking.
a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get to.
environment, as she
We're out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of the president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would.
You
be
remember
right there with
January
them.
6th, right,
The country
Kamala?
and
You
the
were in
world saw
Congress,
what
hiding
played
under
out
the
at
desk
Capitol that day, the
of a male
officers
colleague?
coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
Yeah, here
You
we
just
go.
said a thing that isn't covered.
Get ready for
Peacefully
full
and
body
patriotically,
cringe,
I
folks.
said
All right.
during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace.
He didn't give her a stand-down
I mean, this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country
going
and
off.
killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people?
Now she's talking about building the rest of the wall.
What are these people from countries
fat
all
chance.
over the world, not just
Although
South
she's hit the
America.
wall pretty
They're
hard, so
coming
maybe.
in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
one
ask
of those, David, one of those people going to be prosecuted. One of the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted, or in Seattle. They went
She
into
bailed them
Seattle,
out of
they took
prison.
over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. One of those people going to be prosecuted.
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold
You might
on
ask her that
television. It's a
question. You
very
won't.
simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on
man.
that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just.
I can't believe
2
we're
weeks ago,
talking
her
about
daughter
National
hesitated
Guard before
before
we even
saying
talk about,
she
like,
is fully
the
responsible for what
multiple
happened.
wars
They
the
wanted to
Biden
get rid of that
administration
thing.
is embroiling
It
us
would have
in.
never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington.
This is how you know
did their
ABC's
jobs.
going to bat
I wasn't
for her.
responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
What? But you asked what he did to try and calm that down, and he told you.
I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited
I
a
was
violent
under the
mob
desk with Willie Brown. Well, part of Willie
Attack.
Brown.
our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died.
Oh my God!
And
This
understand,
lie.
The former president has been
This
indicted
lie.
and impeached for exactly that reason.
You held a
this
state
is not an
funeral for a guy who
isolated
died
situation.
2 days later
Let's
of a heart
remember
attack.
Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches,
Oh,
spewing
we're good.
anti-Semitic hate.
If you've
And
got
what did
debate
the
bingo right
president
now,
then
you've got to
at the
have
time
bingo by
say?
now.
There
You've
were
got to.
5 people on each side.
Jan, 6
Let's
tiki
remember
torches.
That when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia.
Proud Boys!
The president said,
When was the last time you even
stand
heard
up
of the
and
Proud
stand by.
Boys?
So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I
Yahtzee!
say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back.
Yeah.
It's time to turn the page.
It's to turn the page
And if that
to
was
the
a bridge
current
too far for you,
administration.
well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our
Oh
democracy,
my
to stand
God,
for
this
rule
is
of
so
law,
unpersuasive.
and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about
You can
attacking
tell she's
the
floundering a bit
foundations
because
of our
she's going
democracy
back
because you
to the.
don't like the
This is the
outcome.
speech she
And be
delivered
clear
earlier.
on that point,
Right?
Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath.
Oh,
This
the
and outcome of this
bloodbath
election
thing.
is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on
Tiki
this. Let's not
torches,
go back.
bloodbath,
Let's
Jan
chart a
6.
course for the future.
Now,
and
if we
not
can just
go
get the fine
backwards to the
people on
past.
both
Let me
sides.
just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked.
Debunked.
Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people.
As you
they
would say,
covered it.
debunked.
If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect.
I'm in
It was
disbelief
debunked in
she
almost
mentioned
every
Charlottesville.
newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up.
Yeah.
They bring all of this
Let's
stuff
change
up.
the
I
page.
ask
Now
you
let's
this.
talk
You
about
talked
Charlottesville.
The Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do
Who's
it.
got bingo?
I would
Guys?
say we would both
Anyone?
leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to because
See, I didn't hear the fine people. Sorry, I was talking over it, Red.
Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on.
Wake him up at 4 o'clock in the
If
afternoon?
he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people.
I wanna-
unlike
And here
J6.
comes the
Talk
moderator with the
immigration here
interrupt.
tonight.
Do
I
you see
wanna
what's happening here,
focus
guys?
on, this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus. Truth in these
If this
times
was
that we're
going
living
well
in.
for her,
Mr.
he
President,
doesn't
for 3.5
interrupt.
years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say that.
sarcastically. You
But
know
those-
that. It was we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically.
Said that sarcastically.
There's so much.
They really
proof.
thought they
All
had
we have
him
to
there.
do is look at it, and they should have sent it back to the legislature.
But this is
for
true.
approval.
People like this
I got
don't
almost
even
75
get
million
sarcasm,
votes, the
which is
most
half of the
votes any sitting
problem.
president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be
Dude, the
beaten.
get out of bed at
The
4 in the
election,
afternoon
people
line
should
might
never
be the line
thinking
of the
about
night
an
so
election
far,
as
and he's had a
fraudulent. We
few.
need two things. We need walls. We need, and we have to have it.
It's
we
rough.
have to have borders. And we have to have good elections.
She
Our
can start out
elections
strong
are
on a
bad.
point.
And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming
But Trump
in,
is right
they're
there with the
trying to
tennis
get them
racket
vote.
to
They
bat it
can't
right
even
back
speak
into her
English.
side of the
They don't
court,
even
and
know
she
what
fumbles
country
the
they're in
return every
practically.
time.
And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm. Lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it.
He's got the
And we should just point
moderator
out here,
flustered. Are you
clarification,
hearing
you know
that?
this. You and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican,
judge looked at it.
and said
They
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing.
Yep.
That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it.
They
I'll
won't.
show you Georgia, and I'll show
Sorry,
you
guys, my
Wisconsin,
mic's about to
and I'll
fall
show
over.
you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what?
So
That
many
doesn't
facts
matter,
and
because
statistics.
we have to solve the
Classic
problem that we have
Trumpism.
right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right
It's funny
now
because
is
Kamala
we
tries
have
to
a
lift off
nation
facts
in
and statistics
decline,
and totally
they
fumble.
have
She'd be
put
better
it
off
into
doing that.
decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election. That was won by President
No,
Biden.
he said you don't
and
understand
yourself.
sarcasm.
But I do want to ask you about something.
And you got
that's come up in the
flustered and
last
started
couple of days.
stammering,
This was
yes.
a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Good.
Which will include long-term prison
If he
sentences.
believes he was defrauded of
One your
election, why
campaign's
wouldn't
top
he?
lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Look at him set the ball on that
Donald
tee.
Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about
81
Clearly,
million!
he's
Do
having
not
a very
mention
difficult time
81 million,
processing
you
that.
stupid bint!
But we cannot
Oh my
afford to have a
God.
president of the United States
Oh,
who
no!
attempts, as he did in the past, to upend
What
the
a
will of the voters in a free and
mistake!
fair election.
You should have just
And I'm
said he
gonna
was
tell you
fired by
that
the American
I
people.
have traveled
81
the world
million?
as Vice
Don't call
President of the United
attention to
States.
that.
And world leaders are laughing
Oh.
at Donald Trump. I have talked with
Lady.
military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace.
Oh.
And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have
Man,
lost,
she kind of could have
because you did in
hit
fact
back
lose
on that.
election,
Oh.
it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament.
He
or
already
the
knows what he's
ability
gonna
to not
say.
be
Look at him.
confused about
Look at
facts.
him.
That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man.
He already
He's a-
knew
he's
what he
a
wanted
tough
to say.
person. Smart. Prime Minister of
It's
Hungary.
like Biden on
They
opposite
said,
day.
why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need
if anyone knows
Trump
about blowing.
back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use
Yep.
the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him.
Oh,
China
finally.
was afraid of him.
We're talking
North
about
Korea
war.
was afraid of him.
Or as
Look
John
at what's
McCain
going
calls
on
it,
with North Korea, by the way.
porn.
He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country.
This
he
broad
ended
wants
that.
to bomb
But he let
places
the
she can't
Russians
even
build a
point to on a
pipeline
map.
going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if you weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did.
She did
you
get
talk
no
about
votes. She
threat
didn't
to
even have a
democracy.
primary.
He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office.
And she dropped
And you know
out in
what? I'll give you a
2020
little
before
secret.
even
He
getting to
hates her.
California.
He can't stand her. But he got
President.
14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand.
I didn't
but I'm
think he
okay
was
with
going to
it
mention
because
it.
Your time
I
is up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more. to get to.
Oh.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are
Yeah,
still
I want to hear what
held,
Kamala
Americans
has to say
among them.
about foreign
Vice
policy.
President
Here we
Harris, in
go.
December,
Well,
you
she's
said,
Indian.
quote,
Wanna-
Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote,
I don't know.
"It
What day of the
matters
week
how,"
is it? Is she
saying
black or
international
Indian today? I don't know.
humanitarian law must be respected. Israel
I think she's
must do more
Tutsi
to
today.
protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100
Trump is
hostages
working up a
remain.
lather, guys.
Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu
It's not as
said
bad as the
there's not a
Biden
deal
one,
in the
but
making.
Biden kind of buried
President
himself
Biden
in that
has not been
debate.
able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
She's just teeing it up for him.
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization,
Who was
slaughtered
in
1,200
power on
Israelis.
October 7?
Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly
I know
raped.
all about
And so
concerts.
absolutely, I said then, I
Most
say
of them
now,
are Kamala
Israel
rallies.
has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must
You
end
are in
immediately.
power
And the way it will end
now.
is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock.
Oh,
on
they're
that.
taking hostages out.
Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a
You won't have to
course
worry
for
about
a
that one much
two-state
longer.
solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians
This is the same boilerplate nonsense
self-determination,
going
and
back
the
to
dignity
George
they so rightly
H.W.
deserve.
Bush talking
President
about
Trump,
this issue.
How would you negotiate with Netanyahu?
If you've watched a
and
presidential
also
debate
Hamas
in the last
order to get
30
the
years,
hostages
you've
out
heard
and
that
prevent the
canned
killing of
response.
more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to
That's
be
all
there
right.
because she
Every
was
other
at a
American
sorority
politician
party
did.
of
Don't
hers.
worry about
She
it.
wanted to go to the
They all
sorority
kissed the
party.
ring.
She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole
I'm surprised they
place
waited this
is gonna
long to
get
start talking
blown
about
up.
Ukraine, actually.
Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions.
It's true.
that they had.
Who do you think
Iran had
bought
no
the
money
rockets?
For Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different
They weren't a gift from China.
spheres of terror, and they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big
Terror,
story, and
terror.
you covered it very well, actually. They had no
It's like Triple
money
H's
for terror.
old WCW
They were
gimmick,
broke.
terrorizing.
Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going
Houthis?
on in the Middle East. This would have never happened.
She's
would
like,
get
what?
that
I love
settled
Houthi and the
fast,
Blowfish.
and
What are
I'll
you
get
talking
the
about?
war with
I know all about
Ukraine
that.
And Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire
Just a
career and
barista
life
at Starbucks
supported
called
Israel
Israel.
and
It's
the
no big deal.
Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators.
Who in the world,
wants to be a dictator
looking
on
at the
day one,
difference
according to himself.
between when he was in
It
power
is well known
and you're
that
in
he
power,
said of Putin
would believe that.
that he can do whatever
know
the hell
who,
he wants and
unfortunately.
go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with
He said
Kim
it was
Jong-un,
brilliant for him to take
and
advantage
it
of
is
you
absolutely well known
because you left the
that
door
these
open for him,
dictators and
you
autocrats
retard.
are rooting
Even I know
for
the
you
context
to
of
be
those
president
remarks.
again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have
They
worked
cut his
with
face
have
out
told
'cause he's
me,
making her
"You
look
are a
bad."
disgrace." That is why.
Did you see
we
that?
Understand that we have to have a
His
president
reactions
who is
were
not
too good, so they
consistently
cut him off the
weak
screen.
and wrong on
There we
national
go,
security,
and we're back.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Oh my God. This
And
is
he's
what
the
happens
one
when you prep
that
for a
caused it.
debate by watching
That's
The
weak
West
on
Wing
national
and Jerry
security by
Springer.
allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it. Because what he's
think he
gotten away
meant
with
it.
is absolutely
I think he did
incredible. It
too.
wouldn't have happened
He
with
pretty
me.
much is getting everything
The
he wants.
leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent.
I think he'd rather the war
and they
were
are.
over, but-
They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the
people think
Keystone
Putin was
pipeline
trolling, but
and approve the single
I think he was
biggest
just
deal
laughing
that
while he was
Russia's
being
ever
deadly
made,
serious.
Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe. because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
Before we can get to Biden being paid off by these countries, okay?
National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Oh my God. Whoo! Okay, guys. So, to summarize where we are thus far, I feel like Kamala is stronger being teed up to, right? If there were one consistent theme, it would be that when Kamala's teed up, she hits it pretty hard. It's clear she's been coached. It seems a little to me like she might be wearing an earpiece, and she's much better with it than Biden was. But on the response, she falls to pieces because she cannot think on her feet. And that was clear, by the way. This is not news. This isn't my uncharitable interpretation because I'm, right of Mussolini. You could see that in the Democratic primaries, right? Watch the footage of Tulsi Gabbard absolutely tearing her flesh open and wearing her as a skin suit in that primary debate. She does not deal with the riposte well, and she can't think on her feet, which is wild when you consider her prior career choice, walking the streets of San Francisco. No, all right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and read some of your super chats. I'm glad you're staying with us. I hope you've been enjoying the commentary, if not this mind-numbing debate. But yeah, if I were to summarize it thus far, I would say Kamala Harris is kind of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory in most of these exchanges. She starts off strong, lands a body blow or two, and then Trump opens his mouth, and it's all over. And the more she responds, the more she digs the hole. It's rough. It's rough. She's not as incoherent as Biden, though she is incoherent. That has been a trait of her in public life since the very beginning. But Mercenary X, thank you. He says, let the snark flow like spice. He says, tinfoil hat time. Here we go. Nothing better than a Mercenary X conspiracy. Tinfoil hat time. The entire debate was pre-recorded with CGI. I wish. Are you allowed to make CGI movies of violent beatings like this? Cesario JPN, thank you for the debate roast. We'll replay this during my night graveyard shift. Going to sleep. Rest in peace. Peter Renaday, yes. Master Splinter and the Al-Mualim from the original Assassin's Creed, actually. I was blown away to hear that. I did not realize he was like 89 years old or something. Like, he was super, super old. I did not know he was that elderly. Not that long ago, he did a brilliant retrospective documentary. He was one of the people who was interviewed, and they had a cast reunion for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the old cartoon back in the day. And he showed up. He was there with bells on. It was brilliant. And, of course, he did more than just Master Splinter. He was Vernon on that show and a bunch of other people. He did a lot of, everybody in the cast did a lot of different voices. So, all right, let's see here. Commander CTC, greetings, lads. Betting $5 that Kamala would cackle either 5 to 9 times during the debate. Either way, this is going to be good. She hasn't, but she has substituted the cackle for something else equally as cringe. Are you ready? This move right here. This bullshit, right? I don't know who coached her and told her that was persuasive, but it's like, instead of the I'm speaking thing, she decided to go with that. Whatever that focus group was needs to be turned out into the street, frankly, because it's not working out. All right. Elite Elk 221. Razor, how drunk do you think Kamala will be? Godspeed as you watch this brain damage. Oh, come on. Trump drinks as much as the next guy. Unless the next guy is Kamala Harris. Obsidian Mug. Who will win tonight? The donkeys or the elephants? The Haitians, of course. Sounds like a Haitian barbecue. Marussia Dark. Hey, Razor, love your work. What's your secret for avoiding copyright hits when using rock and metal songs in your videos, like in the end credits? You have to edit around them. That's what it is. You have to edit around them. Sometimes I have to go through and re-upload videos. I even have to edit streams and re-upload them. It's a giant pain in the ass, but it's part of the anti-copyright dystopia that we presently inhabit. Bubba Doom. Father, protect President Trump. Guide him, bless him in America. Let those who cheat the election be found out. Godspeed. He decided to pray there, I guess. And he says, amen. The Walrus 407. I made 2 drunk chats last stream. Please forgive me. I love your work, Razor and Taryn. Taryn's not here. I'm flying solo. All right. Weird. Switching between you and Archcast. Don't let it happen again. No, I'm just kidding. I love Arch. The Azure Nightmare. Oh, hold on. We're back. I apologize. Let me turn the sound up.
Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further.
Sorry
into
about
other
that, Kev.
countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine
He's
to win
already
this war?
answered this
I
before.
want
This is
the
a
war to
mistake.
stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look.
The numbers
we're
you're
in for
getting.
250
I like how he
billion or
takes a
more
moment to insult
because
the
they
moderator
don't
as
ask
much as
Europe,
possible.
which is a much bigger
he's got it coming.
beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are.
Yeah.
They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But
Oh, no!
what's happening? We're in for 250 to 275 billion.
Go
They're
on.
To 100 to 100.
Put your chin in your hand, Kamala. Go on. You know you want to.
Equalize. With that being said, I want to get the
She's
war
getting her
settled.
instructions
I
in
know
the
Zelensky
earpiece.
very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They
She's got
respect
the
me. They don't
incredulous
respect
Oprah
Biden.
look.
How
You
would
know that?
respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin. Hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win,
I mean, the guy
when I'm
brought the
president-elect,
Koreas back
what I'll
together.
do is I'll
I say
stick to
give him a
one, I'll
shot.
stick to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact,
And
when I
incidentally,
saw
it's not
Putin
going great over
after I
there
left,
either.
Unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know.
Holy crap!
But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
just to clarify the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest
Doesn't know
for
he's
Ukraine to win this
alive!
war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris.
Yes, noted foreign policy
support for
expert
Ukraine
Kamala
in this
Harris.
moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief.
Calling
if elected,
Kamala a
how
foreign
would you
policy
deal with
expert is
Vladimir
like calling
Putin, and would it
Caitlyn
be any
Jenner
different
Man of
from
the
what we're
Year?
seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Yeah. Despite not a single
The
vote
reason
being
that Donald
cast.
Trump says that
You
this
loopy
war
broad.
will be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans.
What?
Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded.
Meeting with
tried
Zelensky
through
is not the
force to
problem.
change territorial
He shows up
boundaries
anytime he
to
wants
defy
money.
One of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern
And then
flank,
put boots on the ground
Poland and
from
Romania.
America.
And through the work
Against
that I
prior
and others
edicts
did,
and the
we
law.
brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine
Are
stands
you
as
sure
an
you
independent
want
and free country.
to
If
call
Donald Trump were
attention
president,
to
Putin
this
would be
game of
sitting in Kyiv right now.
brinksmanship, Kamala?
And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that
because now their laundering
understand the
operation in
importance
Ukraine
of
is
the
safe.
greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv.
Her father is voting for Trump? The Marxist?
Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans
So you don't
right
mean
here in
father-in-law?
Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up
Sorry, I was reading the
sake
chat.
of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight, Afghanistan.
Ah, no response this time.
I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and now, please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting.
Here we go.
Moscow, and
He was
wouldn't have
not
lost
going to let him
300,000
respond.
men and women, but he would have.
You
been
see,
sitting
they're
in
adjusting
Moscow
on the fly. This is
quietly.
clever.
He would have been sitting
Shitty, but
in
clever.
Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got
No, they
nuclear
don't.
Weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because
Done.
everything they said was
Done.
and stupid.
Holy
They said the wrong thing.
shit.
The war should have never started. She was the emissary.
He
They
just
sent her in to
decapitated this
negotiate
woman.
with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later.
Vice
And
President?
that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country.
If
But
they're
let me tell
smart,
you
they will
something.
cut off his
She
mic.
is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
I can't believe they're not
Thank you.
muting
You did
him.
bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
He didn't say she
Yet
met
again,
with
I said at the
Putin.
beginning of this
He
debate, you're gonna
didn't
hear a
say
bunch of
that.
lies coming from this fellow, and that is another one.
He did not
When
say
I
that.
went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is, it has been about standing as America always should.
I have
as a
never seen a
leader
journalist spin a
upholding
story
international
2
rules
seconds
and
after the
norms.
story
As a
before. That
leader
was
who
amazing.
shows strength, understanding
Did you
that
see
the
what he did there?
alliances we have around the
He
world
said
are dependent
she was sent
on our
to
ability
help
look out
avoid
for
the
our
war.
friends and
Not meet with Putin.
favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States
See how
is
much weaker she is
commander-in-chief,
on response
and the American
than the
people
initial
have a
statement.
right to rely
These are the unprepared
on
remarks.
a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I wanted to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got
And he
them to pay up
gloriously
by
murdered
saying
the
one of statements
TPP,
he made
which-
before, if you don't pay,
Man, if that was the
we're not
only
gonna
thing
protect
he
you.
did,
Otherwise,
Trump
we
would have been
never
worth
gotten it.
putting in
He
the White
said it
House
was
at
one
least
of the
once.
most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a
Thank you.
poignant
We
moment today on
desperately
Capitol
want to
Hill,
move
honoring
on to our
soldiers who
next
died
prepared
in the
talking
chaotic
point.
withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe
This
you bear
reminds
any
me of the black
responsibility in the
journalist
way
thing that
withdrawal
he was
played
in,
out?
right? Like it's
Well,
3
I'll
on
tell you, I
1
agree with
transparently.
President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan.
And he's
Four
bloodying
presidents
all their noses
said they would,
simultaneously.
and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day.
Oh
we
my
were paying
God,
for
you're
that
going to spin
endless
the
war.
Afghanistan
And
withdrawal?
As of today, there is not one member of the United States military
She is
who
stepping
in
straight
active
in it. This
duty
is gonna be
in
so
a
bad.
combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he
Yeah,
was
stolen
president,
election. I mean,
negotiated one of the weakest
fortified
deals you
election.
can imagine. He calls himself
Fortified
a deal
with
maker.
calcium.
Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved
the Taliban was the
getting
regime
5,000
in the country.
Taliban terrorists released. And get this. No, get this.
They were the governmental...
And
what?
The president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he is
A
consistently
level of
disparaged
respect.
and
People
demeaned
falling
members
off of
our military,
plane wheels
fallen soldiers,
mid-flight.
and the work that we must do to uphold the strength.
A repeat
and the
of the withdrawal
respect
from
of the
Saigon.
United
You
States of
know,
America around
dignified
the
presidential
world.
things.
President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the
Oh,
negotiations
boy.
with the Taliban.
This should be
So-
interesting.
If you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. I got involved. And Abdul was the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed.
You're going to
We did
figure
have
that
an
out,
agreement
Abdul.
negotiated by Mike Pompeo.
Man, screw
It was a
it.
very good
Let
agreement.
Abdul
The
moderate
reason
the debate.
It was good.
Let's get
It
Abdul
was-
in here, can't
we
we?
were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't.
Hell,
have
I'd
lost the
accept
soldiers.
Paula
We
Abdul
wouldn't have
over
left
Kamala.
Many Americans behind, and we wouldn't
He's
have
actually
left,
less drunk.
We wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
Yep.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr.
Prepared
President, you recently said of
remarks,
Vice President Harris,
immediate
quote, "I didn't know she was
decapitation.
black
That has
until a
been
number
the
of years ago
theme of the night."
when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black." I want to ask a bigger picture question here
What?
tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care.
It's okay to
I
be
don't
white
care what
wine.
she is.
It's
I don't
fine.
care.
It's whatever.
You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words.
Yeah.
I'm
I don't
asking-
know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out. And I'll say that.
Yeah,
And
it's a
then I read that she
It's a
was
shame
black,
Elizabeth
and that's
Warren
okay.
couldn't be
I
here
know
to
what
blame
was okay
smallpox
with me.
blankets
That's
for
up to her.
global warming.
That's up to her.
Get some real
President
ethnic
Harris, your thoughts on
commentary in
this?
here.
I think it's.
Oh, well.
I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
What?
You know, I do believe that
He
the vast
marched
majority
with
of us
Jesse
know that we have
Jackson
so
and
much
Al
more in
Sharpton
common
in the
than what separates
90s.
us, and we don't want
Him and
this
Michael
kind of
Jackson
approach
built
that
a
is just
burn ward in
constantly trying to
Africa.
divide us, and especially by race.
And he didn't even
let's
take
remember
credit for it. We found out about
how
that
Donald
30
Trump
years
started.
later.
He was a land. He owned land. He owned buildings, and he was investigated because
She's off
he
script.
refused to rent
Uh-oh.
property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution.
Ooh,
This
shit
is the
blizzards
same
early today,
individual
huh?
who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better
That's
than
an
that.
interesting story.
Want better than this.
Incidentally.
Want someone who understands, as
Because
I do,
Sheriff
I
Joe
travel our
Arpaio here in
country.
Maricopa County later had two
We
independent
see in
document
each other
experts
a friend.
determined
We
that
see in
Obama's
each
birth
other a
certificate was
neighbor.
actually
We
photoshopped.
don't want a leader
Both of whom
who
are
is
Democrats, by the
constantly
way.
trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people?
But
Knowing
Trump
that
is not a
regardless
birther particularly,
of
by the
people's
way.
color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those.
She should not have gone
not
off
in
script at the
hate and
beginning there.
division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your
I wonder
third
if she
time-
wasn't getting instruction in
This
her
is the
earpiece,
most
so she
divisive
stalled for time
presidency
and went off script and
in the
just
history
started
of our
stammering.
country. There's never been anything like it.
That's
They're
what I wonder.
destroying our country, and they come up with things
Like an adjustment to strategy because
what
she's
she
doing
just
so
said.
poorly on the
Going
responses.
back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted.
Not that we
they
should
said
hold
they
that
pled
against them.
guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no
Yeah.
idea what a good economy is.
Kamala Harris
Their
hitting
oil
anyone for
policies, every
overzealous
single
prosecution
policy.
is
And remember this,
rich as tapioca.
she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad.
Yeah.
And she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is
More
up.
inflated than Madonna's cheeks.
Briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump.
I might need
And what I
independent
do
verification of
offer
that.
is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes
You're currently in
what
power.
is possible. One who brings a sense of optimism.
What new generation?
about
What is this,
what we can
WWF
do,
in the
instead of
mid-90s?
Always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses.
Tell us again
which is
about the
why
tiki
I have a
torches,
plan.
Miss
Let's
I'm not
talk about
dividing the
our
country.
plans and let's compare the
Oh,
plans.
no. Oh, no.
I have a plan
Oh,
to
no.
give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue
She's down,
their
folks.
ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to
I have a
pursue
recipe
what has been
for
fleeting
cat
in terms
pizza.
of the
I mean-
American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000.
PetSmart is
down
my
payment
favorite Haitian
assistance
place. I mean,
for
why
first-time
should, sorry.
home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly
What
about
conversation? It's
belittling
3-on-1.
and name calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on.
God, who
President
was her
Trump,
debate
Let's
coach,
turn to
Conrad
policy.
Murray?
Plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank
That's
you, Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump.
president has
No,
said
I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I just
gonna
need to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he
The
has
President
moderator
Trump,
can't
this is
decide
now
if
your
she's
third
interrupting
time
Trump
running
or
for president.
interrupting
You have
Kamala.
long
You like
vowed to
that?
Repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You
Oh
have
my
failed
God.
to accomplish that.
Affordable
You now say
Care
you're
Act.
going to keep Obamacare. Quote,
Failed to accomplish
unless
that.
you can do
John
something
McCain
much better.
got up from his
Last month, you
grave
said,
and
quote,
killed
"We're
that."
working on it. So tonight,
Anybody
9
remember
years
that?
after you first started running, do you
He was
have a
like
plan?
weeks from his own
Can you tell us
death.
what it is?
Obamacare
Got
was
up off his
lousy
deathbed to
healthcare.
murder that.
Always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I
Repeal
inherited
and
Obamacare
replace.
because Democrats wouldn't
How about we
change it.
start
They
with the
wouldn't vote
repeal
for
part?
it.
How about-
They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they
Is
would
there
have done
one
that,
way
we
your
would have
health
had a
care
much
wasn't better in
better plan
2007 than it
Obamacare.
is now?
But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't
I know
vote
mine
for
was
it.
like half what
I
it
had a
costs
choice
today,
to make
if not
when I
less.
was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be? Never going to be great. Or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even
Like
though
chat, what
politically
were
it
you
would've been good to just
paying
let
for
it
your health
rot
care
and let
in
it go away.
2007? If you
I
had it, if
decided,
you were
and I
old
told
enough
my
or whatever.
people, the
Like at the
top
time,
people,
I
and they're
paid
very good people. I have
$65 a
good
month.
people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference
was
is they don't get rid of them. But
pre-Obamacare.
Let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no.
We
you
don't
still
even
think-
have Obamacare. We have Romney care.
Concepts of a plan.
That's what
I'm not
Obamacare
president
is.
right now. But if
There are people on the
we
right
come
who
up
don't
with
even
something,
realize
I
that.
would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be
no
hearing
wonder
about it
Romney
in the
hates this
not too
guy.
distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with
Either that or
private
he said
insurance
something
and
bad
create a
about the Planet
government-run
Kolob. I
healthcare
don't know.
system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point.
Grow the Affordable Care Act. I would like
I've
a
made
qualification
very clear my
for that
position on
statement.
fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's
Like
guns
cancer
away.
grows,
Tim
people.
Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the
Sure you
continuous lying
are.
about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act,
Yeah, Willie
understand,
Brown's love
just
gun,
look
maybe.
At the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a
Yeah, I wish he
senator
made it
at
61.
the time. When I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being you don't like him.
Don't
you said,
remind
at the time
us!
because he got caught. He
Don't
was an
remind
American
people!
hero. The late great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, "No, you don't."
After
No, you
promising
don't.
his
No, you don't
constituents
get
that
rid
he
of
would
the
kill
Affordable Care Act. You
Obamacare
have no
even more
plan.
loudly than
And
Trump.
what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate
He
the
chose the
ability
mono
of
party
insurance
over his
companies
own
to deny
constituents.
people
It was his
pre-existing
final
conditions.
political
I don't have
act.
to tell the people watching
And his
tonight,
final
you remember
foreign
what that was
policy
like?
act was flying to
Remember
Ukraine
when an
to
insurance
engineer that
company could
war.
deny
He
if
did
a
both
child
with a
had
brain
asthma,
tumor.
If someone was a breast cancer survivor,
And
if
who
a
knows how much that
grandparent had
tumor blinkered his
diabetes.
judgment.
And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have
price
capped the cost of
controls.
prescription medication
And we can
for
see how
seniors
well
at
that's going.
$2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for
That'll
all
help
people,
inflation and supply.
understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of
F's
those
in the
who can
chat
afford
for
it.
John McCain's
And
tumor.
The plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice
Past its
President
prologue
Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a
She
lot
made
of
a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get people.
Yeah, because she wants
privately
price
for
controls, which is going to make it
that
worse.
have worked hard,
It's going to make
and made
private
money, and
options
they wanna have
worse,
private.
which is
She
probably
wants
going to
everybody
shepherd
to be
people to
on
Obamacare,
government
which
insurance
is also
when you
going to
wait
be worse.
6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump,
Yeah.
thank you. We have another issue.
I think
that
we're
we'd like to
witnessing
go
an
to that's
operation right
important for a
now.
number of
What the
Americans, in
hell?
particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President
Beware
Trump,
a
with
woman who
regard to
uses
the
her
environment,
maiden
you say that
name
we have to
after
have clean
marriage.
air and clean water. Vice President Harris,
Granted,
you call
Kamala's
climate
husband's
change
surname
an
is so Jewish she has to
existential
pay to
threat.
rent it
The
out,
question
but still.
to you both tonight is what would you
What is it,
do
like Lamp
to fight
Shadenstein
climate
or something?
change?
I don't
And
know.
Vice President Harris, we'll start with
Kidding.
you.
I'm
1
only
minute for
kidding.
you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that
Look at all
it is
those
very
Fs.
real. You ask anyone who lives
Godspeed,
in a state
everyone.
who's experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as
No
Vice
Elizabeth
President
Warren
over the
here.
last 4 years,
So
we
instead
have
of a white
invested
woman
$1
pretending to be
trillion
Indian,
in a clean
we'll hear
energy
about the climate
economy,
from a
while we
Indian
have also
pretending to be black.
increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000
Plenty of gas
new
here, yeah.
manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up.
Does anything
factories
about
around the
Kamala
world.
seem
Donald
clean?
Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean
the jobs
energy
report just
economy
came out this
includes
month, by the
investing
way, and
in American
they lost
made
manufacturing
products,
jobs for the first
American
time since the
automobiles. It
pre-recession,
includes
Great Recession period.
growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That
It
is
didn't happen
literally
under Donald
happening
Trump.
under
Let me
you
just
right
tell
now.
They lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going. They're
Bingo.
all leaving. They're building.
not-
big
Trump
auto
knows
plants
this
in
data.
Mexico. In many cases,
doesn't even
owned
need
by
prepared talking
China.
points for this.
They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and
Matt
manufacturing
Walsh's
in
head
this
just
country
exploded
is
somewhere.
horrible. We have nothing because they refuse.
The conservatarians
Biden doesn't
hate
go
hearing
after
about
people
tariffs
because
and
supposedly
protectionism.
China paid him millions of
It makes
dollars.
me
He's
hard as a
afraid to do
mastodon
it.
tusk.
Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries, and then you wonder why is
All
he
these
so
Fs
loyal to
still.
this one, that
Godspeed,
one,
everyone.
Ukraine, China. Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Oof.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
I don't know how
Closing
he
statements
pivoted
from
to the
both
mayor
our
of
candidates. An
Moscow, but
historic night. This ABC News president
good on ya.
from Philadelphia.
A little bit beside the point, but it was still a solid body blow. Jesus, what? This is the second of 2 commercial breaks, so we're headed into the home stretch here.
Will continue after this.
This is wild. This is wild. Took a slight turn there in the post-commercial break. You can see the moderators right now are kind of adjusting to the fact that Trump's responses are so strong, but it's like, you saw in that last exchange, it's like, what are they going to do? Kamala doesn't have an answer, and they know it. She can hit her predetermined, pre-rehearsed kind of talking points, but once she gets outside of that, you've seen several times over the course of this debate, she just stammers and equivocates and doesn't know where she's going. She's almost as bad as Biden, which is something that a lot of people have said, right? She's not demented. She's just incoherent at times, and you can clearly see that. All right, Jags, Dino God, good lord, she's serving up her worst talking points in the most amateur way with clearly empty generic platitudes. Trump is already steamrolling her. He sent that a while back, though. Oh, Liu Bei, let's see. Kamala may soon learn the weed of crime bears bitter fruit. Fellow Shadow fan, Godspeed. Iron Colo, calling it due to the disunity in the Dem Party. Trump will win California. That's a pretty bold prediction. because his supporters are the most willing to vote. Expect the biggest freak out throughout the West Coast. The only reason I would lend any credence to that, I don't think that's likely. But the only reason that is anywhere near the realm of possibility is because Kamala is biblically unpopular in her so-called home state. She is not well liked in California. That's one of the reasons Trump alluded earlier to the fact that in the Democratic primaries in 2020, she dropped out before she got to California. And the reason she did that was she made her final stand in Nevada. She spent tons of money in Nevada, and it turned out dismally for her. And she saw the internal polls out of California, and she was about as popular as BJ Cancer. It was bad. She knew she was about to get embarrassed in her home state, and so in order to forestall that, in order to avoid losing her home state, which she expected to win for a long time, she dropped out instead. This is why we call her Kamala, guys. Every time the American people have an opportunity to vote for this woman, they choose anything at all in the heliocentric system. So let's see here. Jolly Gaming. Okay, what the hell is Project 2025? It's like a platform created by the Heritage Foundation, who have in the past been critical of Trump. And it's it feels a little psyop-y. I think it started out, actually, I've heard from people within the GOP who kind of know the Project 2025 started out as something more organic. And then it started to balloon as more and more money started to be funneled in, and people who were originally involved in the creation of Project 2025 now pretty strongly suspect that it's turned into an op to discredit Donald Trump, which is something that happened when they were, like, the big money interests took down the Tea Party from the inside, right? This is one way that you kind of discredit these organic movements that pop up. That is essentially what Project 2025 is. It is a series of talking points and platform wish list items, essentially, that they hope Trump would get to in a second term. Mr. Repurpose, guess I never before sent you a few bucks. Here you go. Godspeed and thank you. Overkill. Hey, lady, we're buying pizza on an installment plan. Thank you, sir. We're buying it from Al-Qaeda, too. Anderson Paladin. Eaton Kitty isn't the same since the Haitians took over. Fox McCloud. The last debate stream was a blast. Let's do how fun this one is. Godspeed. I hope you're enjoying it. Those weren't words. They were certainly words. They just weren't in the right order. Kind of like Kamala's responses. Spider Eternal. Kamala sounds like she's about to break down and cry. Yet she's not doing what you can tell she really did prepare. She did. Whatever else you want to say, she really did prepare. I would argue it almost seems like she is over-prepared, just a hair. Let's see here.
Is live.
I think they're back.
Live from
the
National Constitution Center in
We'll
Philadelphia,
get to as many
Pennsylvania.
of your
Here
queries
again,
and
David
comments
Muir
as
and
possible.
Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back
Thank
tonight.
you
The time
all
has
for
come
joining
closing
us.
statements and Vice President Harris.
Let's take it back to the third and fourth member of
So
the
I
debate.
think you've heard tonight two very
these are closing comments.
different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that
One
is
that has
focused
beer
on the
goggles.
past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that
Anyway,
includes
Tiki
having
Torches
a
and
plan,
Proud Boys.
understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy.
She always sounds
investing
half
in small
asleep,
businesses,
like she just
in
took a
new
NyQuil or
families,
something.
in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living.
You
I
could do that
believe
now.
in what we can do together. That is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military, and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world.
And then that
I
we
will
pull
be a
it out of
president that will
Afghanistan and
protect
leave their
our
equipment there.
fundamental
I
rights
mean,
and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do.
unless it's the
I'll
federal
tell you,
government, then they'll
I
pretty
started
much
my
do
career
that.
As a prosecutor, I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never
You mean the ones you
asked
didn't let vote
a
for you?
victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat?
A back
The only thing I
room
ever
decided
asked them,
she's the nominee.
Are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Then do
President
it right
Trump.
now.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things.
Oh, here we go.
Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years.
Simple.
They've had 3.5 years to fix the
He gets
border.
it. He gets
They've
the
had
dynamic.
3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in.
Oh!
You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision.
And
But I just
sacrifice the
ask one
unborn,
simple
though,
question.
apparently. Yeah.
Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed
It's funny,
at
they
all
are
over the
meeting
world.
with
They don't
Trump, but
understand
not with
what happened
her.
to us
That
as a
pretty much-
nation. We're not a leader.
Some
we
of
don't
them.
have any idea what's going on.
Which is hilarious.
We have wars going on in
Bitingly
the Middle
hilarious.
East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire
He already killed her with the
military.
opening
She
statement.
gave a lot
This
of
is
it
all
away
just cherry on
to the
top.
Taliban.
Whoa.
She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here.
Okay, you guys. How do we summarize what we just witnessed? That was not as bad as the Biden debate was for Biden. But it was not far the hell off. It really, really was not. And the worst part about it was, whereas Biden, he couldn't respond, he couldn't even begin his thoughts, Kamala would make a decent point. She would hit hard on something. And you even a couple of times got a sense like, ooh, she kind of scored a blow there. Okay, now Trump's on his back foot. And then Trump would respond, and she had nothing. She had nothing. The queen, yes, queen, had no clothes. The wine mom had none. It was unbelievable. She reached in her back pocket, and there was just nothing. This woman was overcoached or undercoached. I honestly can't tell. I really can't tell. It was one or the other, though, because she'd launch into this prepared diatribe, and then he would hit back with the slightest little rejoinder, and she was lost. She was deer in the headlights. That was rough. That was rough. Not as bad as the first one, but I mean, Biden was an all-time worst debate performance for anyone. So this is kind of rarefied air we're talking about here. That did not go so well. Interesting. Okay. And we're seeing the spin here on the side of the screen. I can already see Trump seemed angry, right? Which, I mean, that's going to be your spin. I will be curious to see if my prediction at the top of the stream is correct. If what the plan is here is we've sweetened the polls for Trump, because now in the last week and a half or so, the polls that were saying that Kamala was 19 billion points ahead are now saying Trump is 5 or 6 points ahead, or it's a dead heat in all the battleground states, whatever. Essentially slightly more accurate numbers, but for all the wrong reasons. The response bias is essentially in the other way. It will be interesting to see if they reverse that, and the day after, if, tomorrow, sometime this week when the post-debate polls come out, they go the other way to kind of foster the narrative that, oh yes, Queen, Kamala did it. You did it, Kamala. You answered all the questions. All right, sorry. Where's Dr. Jill these days, by the way? Well, I guess the beach. All right. I did see her on the beach with Joe the other day, by the way. Did you see that video footage? She looked so pissed. All right. Okay, let's make sure we got all of this. I want to make sure I'm not missing any of your super chats. We got some doozies. I'm going to try and get to as many as possible. All right. Harris looked like she belonged on the stage as president. I think this is actually a campaign official with, yeah, this is a White House correspondent here, so. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the subtitles here, because there's just, dude, Tasmanian devil caliber spin going on the screen right beside me, but I'm trying to not get distracted, so I answered your tweets. Thank you guys in the chat. I am paying attention to everything over on Rumble as well. Godspeed to all of you. I have been seeing all your tweets and your, what are they called, Rumble rants? The Rebel Jaffa, Comrade Kamala, has so much substantial campaign policy all over her face, neck, and chest on a nightly basis. Okay, sweeten that one up for you, actually. All right. I saw another one over here. Rumble rant from Reese Kane. It's Kamala Mala Ding Dong. Were you expecting an intelligent debate? I keep reaching for that rainbow. What the hell? You gotta have goals, guys, and Godspeed to everybody who joined us on Rumble. I didn't really shout that one out, but it's always great to have you guys with us. Let's drop down as low as we can so I can get to the very beginning of these. Norm Owlman. Oh, let's see here. Nope, sorry, this is the wrong one. There we go. Excellent. Okay, Eatin' Kitty, the pizza. All right. Project 2025, due to disunity. Got that one already. Okay. There we are. Now we're caught up. Volcanicus Rex, the only woman endorsed by both M. Bison and Emperor Palpatine. She's in Emperor Palpatine's administration. Brennan the Smith. I wonder if garlic would... I wonder if garlic would repel brown cuncheon? I don't know what that means. I'm going to pretend I don't know what that means. Evan Valenta. How do you suppose the black-pilled bedwetters are going to spin this as a Trump loss? Watching these goobers try to bring everyone down has just become more embarrassing than frustrating recently. Well, think of it this way. Kamala has a very unenviable task. However much they're trying to, be the wind beneath her wang and propel her over the finish line with all the spin in the media. The truth is, she has 2 months to make the sale, right? She was installed at a very unenviable point. She was installed as an emergency measure because Biden, guys, the polls were starting to look really dismal for Joe Biden. The only reason he wasn't replaced right away was they were waiting for those post-debate election polls to see if they got away with the hustle. It was looking so bad. It's like, I feel like Kamala's really just an effort. Like, if I'm a Democratic strategist right now, I'm not even thinking about the presidency. That's pretty much gone. I'm trying to save the down ticket races. The Ruben Gallego, Kerry Lake race is big for me right now, right? Like, these are the races that I'm focusing on if I'm a Democrat strategist. I'm not even thinking of the White House because that's pretty much done at this point. Kamala was brought in to save the down ticket races. That's why she can't stop talking about baby murder. It's not a nationally popular issue. I talked to you about Like, the most accurate polling data you can possibly get a hold of has the fanatical pro-abortion lobby and people, the fanatical pro-abortion voter, in short, at around 18% nationally. That's not a lot of people. That is not a lot. That is not going to propel you to the White House. But if you can get that base turnout in enough battleground states, you might manage to save some of those representative seats, those Senate seats, state houses, gubernatorial elections, right? I really feel like that's the frame here. I could be wrong, but that's my personal instinct. Let's see here. Socrates, never seen Trump so on message and strong. He was remarkably focused. I thought he only got distracted a couple of times where he threw out a couple of non sequiturs. But I feel like those were things he really wanted to mention, and the moderators were just so busy basically going to bat for Kamala that he knew they weren't going to mention it, right? Because it's not one of the talking points that were pre-prepared for all of them. And by the way, don't kid yourself. She got the debate questions ahead of time, just like Hillary did. No question. Midnight Green. ABC owned by Disney, in case you were wondering. Okay. Midnight Green 20. I don't think Kamala realizes how tone-deaf talking about AI is when people lost jobs over it. And I feel like there's more anxiety about people losing their jobs in the future to AI than they realize. Earlier today, guys, for those of you who don't realize, I had an interview. I was on a podcast with Uwe Boll. I had an interview with Uwe Boll. I did not expect him to be based. He was actually pretty cool. But he got into the AI thing. And he was like, dude, I don't think a lot of these like voice actors and people, even content creators on YouTube, a year from now, you could all be replaced with AI, right? Like, if he's thinking about it and he's in the movie industry at whatever remove, he can't be the only one. There's a lot of people thinking about, okay, is AI going to replace me? Is what I feel like that is actually a palpable anxiety going around right now. And you're right. It is decidedly tone deaf of her. Hostman's Lounge. Hassan is freaking out about Trump calling Kamala a Marxist. Her look, the look on her face when he said that was when she got into the All right. Oh. Juan Constantine. Thank you for that one. I'm not going to read it out loud. Scarfy the Strange. He confused West Virginia for Virginia. Who doesn't? Eric Spelikulas. Razor, did you notice she has an earpiece? I noticed her behavior being indicative of her having an earpiece. I did not see the earpiece itself. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody noticed it, though, because you could tell she would sort of stammer and equivocate at the beginning of her responses, and it was really obvious she was waiting to get kind of the whole message that she needed to respond to. She's not bad with the earpiece, though. She really isn't. She's way better than Biden, that's for sure. But yeah, it did feel like she had an earpiece in. And how ridiculous is it? We're at this point politically in America that you just have to assume that a politician is cheating with an earpiece. Like freaking Peter Popoff, the notorious scammer evangelist who had an earpiece from his wife and was reading off prayer cards from the audience so he could pretend he had divine powers and knew exactly who to pray for in the... Like, this is Kamala Harris right now in a debate. How ridiculous is that? That's where we're at as a country. Like, if that doesn't bring your piss to a boil, I don't know what will. Socrates, camel toe has the right to use her body to rise in the ranks of politics. Exactly. Scarfy the Strange. This woman can't even debate Tulsi or Biden. It's true. Uriah the House, right? Here's the problem, Razor. You trusted an NPC to do their job. Normal Man just got here. How's the debate so far? Is Trump's promise to protect the doggos? Yes, he did. He did. He mentioned eating cats, and Kamala and and I think both moderators tried to jump in to debunk that story. I did love how he stood his ground and just batted that question right back at him. Actually, I think that guy did see that someone had been eating cats, and you should take it up with him. Like a genius. It's remarkable how the more they try to rig it against him, the more he rises to the occasion. There are instances where the debates are usually worse for him, right? People don't understand how historic it was for the Biden debate to have gone that badly for the current administration. Because they rigged it in every appreciable way to be the precise opposite, right? The muting of the mics and they did it a couple of times in the debate. But what it did is it made Trump more muted, more, as one of the previous super chatters said, more on message, more focused, and it helped him. There was an element of that here, but you could definitely see the added element in this debate was both monitors were Candy Crowley on crack. They were interrupting. They were fact-checking him, but not Kamala. She'd tell a blatant lie. I mean, a blatant lie that even I could identify immediately, and the chat was screaming about, I saw you guys. And the moderators were completely mum when Kamala would make... I mean, did she get fact-checked once? I don't think she did. I don't think it happened a single time. And lying is like breathing for this woman, or filleting, as it were. Let's see here. Socrates, I'm a leader in fertilizing. Okay. Jegs Dino God, the Obama IVF thing wasn't a ban. It was a mistake due to a judicial ruling followed by a clarification, because IVF is not an intentional termination. Cryptic projection is a hell of a drug. Just ask Willie Brown all over Kamala's T-zone. I mean, what? Jenks Dino God, she keeps using points Trump debunked weeks ago. Yeah, and it makes you wonder. She has clearly, I mean, look, she's clearly not running the country. So what has she had to do? She doesn't even do that many rallies. She's been preparing this whole time for the last several weeks. And I think some people in the mainstream media, I was reading the Epoch Times the other day, and they were talking about some of her debate prep and how long it's been going on. So some of these talking points might sound old, because they are old. They're like a month old. This is stuff Trump has bent over the love seat and destroyed long ago. So I think that's kind of an artifact of the debate prep, perhaps over prep. All right, let's see here. Socrates, they're grabbing them by the pussies, Trump probably. The Southern gentleman, what's everyone's pet-themed dinner tonight? I'm having animal crackers. Bolo BRL. It's Kit Kat pie, not kitty cat pie, people. Normal man, hashtag save the cats, hashtag protect the doggos. Cicero's conking out right next to me, by the way. Juan Constantine, I like this one. Try to eat my cat, you get the gat. Norm Al Man, when has a Bush or Romney endorsement been seen as a good thing? Dude, it's just crazy when you think back, because it's not like our political environment hasn't been contentious for a long time. Does anybody remember how much of a fever pitch we reached in 2004 during that election cycle with Bush and Kerry? Guys, there were... it was literally called the Hate Bush Rally. That was the name of it. And it was all over the country. Soros funded it. A bunch of Democratic money went into it. They called it the Hate Bush Rally. And people had pre-made signs of George W. Bush as the devil or Hitler, the giant swastikas all over the signage and what. These are the people they're now creaming their culottes over getting the endorsement from. Dick Cheney, George W. Bush. I mean, the rumor, of course, was George W. Bush was going to be the surprise announcement at the DNC. What do you want to bet they put the kibosh on that at the 11th hour because someone in the Democratic advisory, kind of set came to their senses and went, maybe this isn't the look you want. I would not be surprised to learn that. Because believe it or not, at least among like advisory type people, there are still some semi-sane people, at least from a tactical standpoint, over on the Democratic side. You wouldn't know it from their behavior, but Nightbro19, they keep giving him the last word and it's killing them. Here's the interesting thing about that. I think I mentioned this halfway through. The thing I noticed is it was like they had to give him the last word. Because when they threw it to Kamala, she fumbled, right? She'd start off strong sometimes, like a couple of her responses started off semi-coherent, and then she just petered off. She started chasing white rabbits down bunny hole. She just didn't know what she was talking about. And I think the moderators quickly realized, oh, man. This was so, dude, the production people and whatever, the sound truck, the video truck, or whoever was handling the live feed, they clearly were catching on to the fact that it wasn't looking good, right? And the thing I pointed out, like at the 3/4 mark, where Trump's reactions were so brilliant, they cut away from him, right? They cut away to a wide shot in the middle of Kamala's response, which makes no sense. Like, why would you cut to an establishing shot while Kamala's in the middle of making what she construes as a thought, right? It's obvious everyone was on a hair trigger. The moderators, everyone involved in production. I wouldn't be surprised if someone literally at headquarters for ABC had their hand on the button here. Like, I wonder if there was a delay on this broadcast. I wonder a lot of things about this. It was clear, though, they were on this. I also noticed a little thing. This was a trick they pulled during the Trump-Hillary, kind of saga. His video was slightly discolored. Did anyone notice that? He was slightly desaturated to make his hair look grayer, to make his complexion look gray. Did anyone notice that? And Kamala was like, her colors were more vibrant. They did this during the Hillary debate. Does anybody remember this? In 2016, they messed with the color saturation on one feed, but not on the other. Then they'd pull to the establishing shot, and you could clearly see it's still Orange Man, right? He's still colored orange. Freaking weird. Freaking weird. But you notice these little things. I encourage you to go back and watch this. Actually, don't, because it's all black and white. Go back and watch it on a separate feed, not on this one. All right, Deji Hasselhoff, I'm sorry for rambling on. Kamala's great laid forward. R3D Ghost, did she just name drop? She had the support of every mainstream Republican the Dems have spent the last 25 years saying we're corrupt warmongers. Yeah, and that's on a nice day. Like, how many times was George W. Bush called Hitler? I was watching an episode of, was it Family Guy? A couple of months ago? Where they went on a jag for a good 5 minutes about how John McCain was a literal goose-stepping Nazi. This was an episode from 2008. Anybody remember this? And meanwhile, Kamala invokes his name like Jesus of Nazareth. All right. One man. Oh. Deji Hasselhoff. Lady, you are politically fluid. One man band. Uno reverse yoinked it from her. There were several Uno reverses here, but the most brutal one was the closing. Right? The just straight up, she talks about how she wants to do this and she wants to do that. Oh, I'm gonna turn back the tide in the sea and oh my goodness, everything's gonna be, why haven't you done it? That was it. That was it. He did that earlier in the debate, too, and she had no response. She had no response. Her closing was weak. Oh, man. Mercenary X, it's official. The election will be canceled now. Hasn't it already? Normal. Man, this debate is like watching an adult fight 3 toddlers. Good description. Socrates, having Tulsi as your coach was a good idea. You know, I did not even consider the Tulsi coaching on this. But thinking back to some of the talking points, these were not dissimilar from some of the stuff that Tulsi said in the primary debates where she just absolutely headshotted Kamala Harris on national television. Thinking back to it, I wouldn't be surprised, for example, if the why haven't you done it before now was kind of a Tulsi contribution. Like, that's very Tulsi Gabbard. In fact, I was listening to her on Michael Savage not that long ago, and she made that point. All right. Night Lancer 44, cackle to the hand while the dawn is speaking. It's true. DJ Hasselhoff, bring up the strategic reserve. Merc 24, Trump subverting Democrats' expectations, stealing her I'm talking line and nailing every point. The I'm talking. Does that sound familiar? I fell out. I could not believe he actually did that. Paraplaneta missionary? I apologize if I mispronounced that. Trump having to debate 3 people at once, which, by the way, is brilliant optics for him. You notice there were 2 times when both moderators jumped in at the same time Kamala did. And it looked horrible. Did you notice after the second time, I don't know if she got a message in her earpiece, I don't know if somebody walked up to her, the female moderator stopped doing it. She pretty much shut up for the remainder of the debate until the conclusion. Did you guys notice that? I caught that. I wonder if someone in like the production truck or something wasn't like, hey, cool it. All right. JC, on J6, she was at the DNC with the pipe bomb, right? Still haven't found that rascal, have we? Bubba Doom 1, I just want to point out, we were told we'd never see gas prices like they were before the first Gulf War. That was true until Trump became president. That is true. That is true. It was like we were being conditioned for a new normal of, you know, $4.50 and $5 gas prices. And then Trump gets in there and it's like alaka-blam. Steve Crotty, hearsay from her. There's a lot of hearsay. A lot of he said, she said, baby mama drama. The Theorock, I cannot stand listening to this woman. You could play a damned group of cats screeching and it would make more sense. But enough about her voters. All right, here we go. I knew Kamala had a lot of support from cat ladies. I didn't realize cat ladies were chefs. Shepherd 911, God Emperor Trump, Holy Terror, Scribagen Gal? The point I find interesting is that after T-Money speaks, they move on to the next issue, still fresh in the mind of the viewers. It's like they are trying to get her to lose. I think that was part of them catching on to her not responding very well. It's like the very first exchange, they fought like cats and dogs, right? We got 4 separate response segments or 3, something, a lot. It was excessive. And it was like the moderators were trying, okay, try again, Kamala, try again. And she just was not sticking the landing. Again, first couple of responses, ooh, she hit him kind of hard here and there, but he always had a rejoinder. So the moderators kept throwing it to her like, oh, you've got to have a prepared remark. She did not. Rough. It was rough. Okay. Resilient. I'm going to state this once again because it has more than one meaning. Kamala is for the no state solution. Give me your rights. Why do they only hire Dem moderators? Because good luck finding a non-Democrat in the journalistic field, particularly at major corporations. I went to journalism school. I can speculate as to that. Normal Man, the thermonuclear meltdown happening in the control room is enough to power the U.S. for 3,000 years. Shepherder 911, you think you hate journals enough, but you really don't. Oh, man. Uzi Patrol, Trump's debating 3 people at once. Godspeed. Yes, he certainly was. RC on. What do you think Trump's policy will be for gun control? I hope he doesn't take away our firearms. I think he made one grievous error, and that was the bump stock ban. And he was, a lot of people don't realize, he was browbeaten into doing that. He shouldn't have allowed himself to be. But he was browbeaten into doing that by our good buddies at the NRA. That was really, the bump stock ban was the NRA bump stock ban. And they had been pushing that for some time. The NRA are not your buddies or pals. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got in at second term if he actually moved to try and get rid of that. I wouldn't be surprised because it really wasn't his bump stock ban. He was stupid to push it. He was stupid to pressure people into pushing it. But give the blame where it belongs. I mean, give Trump proper blame for going along with it, but give the blame for coming up with it to the right people, the NRA themselves. All right, let's see here. Steel Manning. Based on how she's releasing her policy, Kamala is the day one patch president. She has the same politics as Ubisoft and the same economy too. Blue Lick. Anybody see the Ubisoft stock price? Oh my God. It's down 89% year over year, something like that. Blue Lick, the funniest thing is not that Trump said I'm speaking, it's that he followed up with, remind you of something? Oof! And you know she had it in her back pocket, by the way. You know she decided not to do it after that. If I had to create a dividing line where she went from moderately stage frightish to straight up flustered that was the moment. Because I think she did plan to break out, the I'm speaking or some variant of that line. And at that moment, she realized she couldn't do it. That's tough. Okay. Give me your rights. It's called a moderator, yet they only swing one way. Where's the bisexuality? One of the moderators seemed pretty bi. I don't know. The Hylian Juggalo. This man did a 3-on-1 MMA match and won. Based. It's weird. I'll be interested to see what the viewership figures are on this, because I predicted on social media I didn't think it was going to be viewed as much as the first one, as the Biden debate, which is a problem for Kamala, because she's got to make the sale in less time. She's got to reverse the momentum also. This kind of had to be another first debate, and it was being treated like it because I think the media wanted to help Kamala out a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if it winds up being less viewed than the first one, because generally speaking, first debate gets all the ratings. Second, third, it just falls off by the tens of millions. So here we go. Weird says, Mom taught her how to seduce an 80-year-old white guy. Gail, Kamala's doing a terrible job of moderating. Doomsday Machine. So Trump's winning. I think it is safe to say Trump won. She landed a few solid body blows early on, but she quickly let go of the bag. And the moderators jumped in, which I think made it look bad. It looked like they were tending to her and working on her side. Didn't look great. And then they essentially left it with Trump. And so Trump kept getting the last word. And his last word was usually pretty solid to absolutely brutally effective. Okay. Idle drifter. President Trump stood on the ground of the Korean DMZ, and Kim Jong-un, he got the remains of American servicemen returned. His foreign policy was pretty damn strong to pull that off. Yeah, it was weird trying to call herself the anti-war candidate. That was pretty retarded, especially when she launched into that entire diatribe about, our Stinger missiles were sent there without our Abrams tanks. Yeah, without all those things, Ukraine probably would have been over by now, honestly. It wouldn't have been great for the Ukrainians. I feel bad for the Ukrainians, the Ukrainian people I'm talking about now. But let's be honest, we're kind of extending their misery at this point. I think a lot of people have caught up to that fact, or caught on to it. Ishmaster, Trump, if she's elected in 2 years, Israel won't exist. Me, promise? Okay. Oy vey, shut it down. Emperor Soft Turtle, off topic. Thoughts on the $700 brick Sony announced? I talked about it on Side Scrollers. You actually get my sincere, real-time reaction on that. So I highly recommend. I won't talk about it here. Thank you for the donation. But if you want my full thoughts in real time, the first time I found out about this, go watch today's Side Scroller episode. You'll also get an interview with Uwe Boll, which is a surreal statement. Razor Fist and Uwe Boll. I don't know how this happened. Ibn Khaldun, Thief 1 or Thief 2, Razor? You taffer? Thief 2, all day, every day. Love them both. But, and check out Thief the Black Parade, the recent fan mod. Sheepherder 911. How long till Kamala's ALC shakes and headache kick in? I don't know. What was this, right? Blast Radius, the moderator's on Team Kamala. The moderator is Team Kamala. Honestly, the moderator was doing a better job of debating on Kamala's behalf than she was. The Mad Chemist 13, Evening Razor. See, you couldn't pull Terran out from under the bridge tonight. Have no fear. We'll keep you company. Give my best to Cicero and the rest of the gang. Iron within, iron without, and up the irons to you, sir. David Elias. Trump ended this farce. Complete KO. Yeah, I didn't expect after the first couple of exchanges, I was like, maybe this will be a little more even. No. We know what the spin's going to be. Make no mistake. Tomorrow, the spin is going to be Kamala triumphant, no matter what happens. Because she didn't crap herself the way Biden did, right? It went terribly for her. But she didn't just fall over and start frothing at the mouth on stage like Biden did. And barely be able to dismount the stairs, the 2 stairs on the stage. Of course Biden can't climb stairs. No one painted him yellow, right? Okay, speaking of the PS5. All right. Mechanized Manifesto. What happened to the past year's worth of Razor Fist arcade VODs? Yeah, so here's the deal. A lot of those are private right now, and the reason why is not because they're gone forever. It's because I think I'm going to open a VOD channel. I don't want the video game streams cluttering up the main channel, because I'm planning to do some more, like, series and stuff. So we're going to be opening a VOD channel, is the long and short of it. They're still there. I'm going to download them, re-upload them, and that's how we'll handle that. So they're not gone. They're gone but not forgotten. Weird. Trump needs election money. He should have a McDonald's bag next to him. Just drink a Pepsi during your comments, right? You never see a thin person drinking a Diet Coke. Which is funny because Trump drinks Diet Coke. Mechanized Manifesto. No, I just read that. Eric. Razor, give him a shot. Me, the DNC, did give him a shot, but missed. That was brilliant, by the way. Closing those remarks on that particular point with, she's not only got violent rhetoric, I took a bullet to the head because of her violent rhetoric. That was more of a kill shot than the one meant for Trump, for crying in the rain. The Great Helsinki. God save Trump for a reason. Don't let this opportunity pass. Do right by your people and your country and vote according to your conscience. Thank you for the 10, sir. David Lara. How can Kamala say they care about territorial sovereignty with a straight face as the border czar, right? In the immortal words of Dennis Miller, they have better security at Borders Books. Sheepherder 9/11. Victoria Nuland, State Department spook, in Kiev the day before Russia invaded. Quote, Ukraine is going to join NATO. These people are ghouls. Thank you very much for the helpful reminder there, Sheepherder. The Copper Owl. What was the bigger waste of money for Kamala? Fatality, flawless finish, brought weird her coach. Huh? Oh, brat weird her coach, or the gas they used to drive there? That's a good question. I don't know. Probably the box wine she's going to nurse a little later. Although that has some kind of value. David May, only a bigot would think avoiding nuclear war is more important than having our first black female president. At least 2 days out of the week, she's black. I don't know. Nobody, U.S. out of NATO. Elite Elk 221, she's lying. We still have active troops in Iraq. I did catch that. I didn't mention it, but I did catch that. Sheepherder 911, code switch your voice some more, Kamala. Silent Crow, the debate is only tolerable because of you and Trump. Godspeed. Thank you very much. I'm glad you joined me. Scroty Johnson, she's using Biden's gotchas recycled. That I noticed immediately. Her first talking point was a Biden talking point that didn't land in that debate. It's like, okay, we still have this. This is still good. It's like when you find that, like, 2-month-old yellow onion in the back of your refrigerator and you want to make some Mexican food or something. It's like, should I? You know, it's not mushy yet, but I don't know. It's kind of growing things. Is it technically lethal yet? I'm not sure. Oh, God. Oh, man, there's more here. Okay. Holy moly, guys. Thank you, chat. Godspeed to each and every one of yous, you beautiful bastards. Oh, so many here. Thanks for all the support, and I hope you've enjoyed the roast of tonight's debate. We're going to do this for as many debates as I can tolerate, I guess, physically. Okay. We have to pass to see what's in it. Sure you won't, Kamala. U.S. out of NATO. There it is. There's where we left off. My God! You people are madmen, this list. Okay. It's longer than a list of Kamala's sexual conquests. Silent Crow. No, I just read that. Thank you. A puppy named Oz. I like your name. Damn, Kamala Harris copied the Meghan Markle victim play. She kind of did, didn't she? DG Hesselhoff, man, she's going to need a 500-plus foot screen for all that projection about race. Normal man, D Boogie would have a better time debating an Oblivion NPC. The hero of Kvatch. Scarfy the Strange. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Godspeed. DJ Hesselhoff again. Kind of unsettling having to hear my name come from Cackle's mouth, isn't it? Crimson Law. My family actually got kicked off medical insurance because we couldn't afford it under Obamacare. My mom went for years without a hip surgery she needed because of that. Many such cases, dude. I mean, it was a while, and it sucks too because Obamacare really messed up even enrolling. Right? You get taxed, you get fined, rather. Let's not call it a tax. It's a freaking fine. You get fined if you don't sign up for Obamacare, which I think is the real scam, by the way. I think it's kind of just a hidden source of revenue. Because a lot of people just don't bother to get Obamacare, so when tax season comes around, they have to pay a penalty, right? So when that happened, man, I went without health insurance for a number of years just because I kept missing the deadline. It wasn't like I was being lazy or whatever, just life. I was living my life. I was working. I was going to school. I was doing normal people stuff. And after Obamacare came around, that was the first time I was uncovered as an adult. Really, really annoying. Generalissimo Liberty, her plan is in place 4 years. Do we need more? Nick's Mustache, speaking on healthcare, still can't get that shoulder surgery because insurance doesn't want to touch it. Maybe it could be because of this CARE Act. All right. DJ Hasselhoff, we have to pass it to see what's in it. Oh, her healthcare plan, I assume. Flessian, still can't scrub the stains out of my hands for voting for McCain for president. I forget if that was the year I voted for the Lulbert candidate. Ugh, held my nose and voted for a Lulbert. Or if it was the year I wrote in Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp. But one of those two things happened. I hated John McCain so much even then. It would make your head spin. Most people didn't learn to hate McCain until the refusal to repeal Obamacare. But I was way ahead of the curve on that one. I hated that man. Okay. DJ Hesselhoff, you reversed what Trump did for insulin, then took credit for it. It's true. A lot of things got reversed the day, like week one of Biden being president. And this is one of the big criticisms I have of Trump, is the number of executive orders. I understand why he did it. And some of them were very, very good, right? The 5-year lobbying ban on White House officials. For those who don't know, first week in office, Trump passed a ban. If you had been in the White House in an administrative position, if you had worked in government in the White House, you were banned from working as a lobbyist. Because everyone had seen the pipeline from working in the White House to immediately going and lobbying and muddying the waters that way. And Trump banned that. Week one, Biden repeals that. Why would you repeal that? What rational, non-corrupt reason would a single human being have to reverse a 5-year lobbying ban? He also reversed, and we know exactly why he did this. Week one, he reversed the ban on foreign companies investing and owning American utility companies. That, of course, was after we learned that Jim Biden and Hunter Biden had sold out the Louisiana energy grid to a Chinese company. Trump banned that. He signed that as an executive order. Week one, I think day one, Joe Biden reversed that. Again, what non-corrupt reason would Joe Biden have for overturning that? Let's be real. But many such cases is my point. It's my big criticism of Trump. Too many of his the best things that he did were, number one, in the first week, so people forgot about him real quickly. I mean, he accomplished more of his line item agenda in week one than I've ever seen a president. But it was all executive orders, so it was easy to overturn. A big criticism I have of Trump. Generalissimo Liberty, F's in the chat for Willie Brown's side hoe. Ashley, Kamala's problem is she has no fire, which results in terrible responses. Bernie the commie had more fire because he believed his nonsense. It's true. He's a fellow believer. Seen some of his interviews recently. It's nice he can admit he was screwed out of the Democratic primaries now when it no longer matters. The Engaged Few, did she just say that she has the endorsement of Senator of Sinn Fein? Senator Feinstein? What? Steele Manning, Trump is stepping all over Kamala like his name is Lady Dimitrescu. All right. Mr. Funny Man, check the news. Matt Walsh just killed himself. What? No. Jan, these folks waste their time debating tariffs while I'm over here supporting a land value tax. Personnelless? What an unexpected train wreck. I thought she knew a thing about having trains ran. Also, any plans for a JFK video? I'd like to do a JFK one. There's a couple books I want to get all the way through, though, before I do the JFK video. Usually those kind of videos, the Hollywood Was Always Red video, the Lincoln video, whatever, happen after I go on a binge of reading about a given subject. Like, if you look at the bibliography on my Lincoln video, it's like 20 books long or something. So, all right. That's usually how that works. I do a bunch of reading on a thing, I get super inspired, and then I make a video. Gail, we simply cannot live with these people anymore. It's not you, Kamala, it's me. Holographic taco salad. Godspeed, Razor. Is that the Trump taco salad with the shit-eating grin? Still my favorite picture from 2016. And I had a lot of favorite pictures from 2016. That was genius. Lampshade. Bro, Kamala's not bringing copied homework. She sure did. She sure did. I'd say the dog ate her homework, but I think the Haitians ate her dog. Anyway, the Grizzly. It's a mockery to even call this a debate. The debate between T and B with blatant cover for K from the moderators. But you know what's even more pathetic? Kamala still ended up losing. This felt even more rigged than the first one, like from a moderator perspective. And in certain ways, it went even worse for Kamala. In certain ways. It went better for her in others. Just because she's not 1,001 years old and completely incoherent and demented. Not being non-compos mentis tends to come in handy, as it turns out. Ibn Khaldun, he asked again, I think. Razor, evening, Yataffer, do you prefer Thief 1 or Thief 2? I said Thief 2. You didn't have to donate twice, bro. The Azure Nightmare, this woman's drinking babies that could be from political has-beens. I don't know what woman you're referring to here. I don't know, and I'm going to continue pretending to not know. Sable Phoenix. I can be on board with just about everything from Trump, but protectionism, tariffs at all, are bad economic practice. They're the same thing as wage and price controls, just with a nationalism veil. There are elements of that I agree with. My counterpoint would be, Jefferson was like almost anarcho-capitalist. Thomas Jefferson I'm talking about now. And he, during his presidency, banned all inland taxes and funded the federal government solely through tariffs, which we could do today if we wanted to. But keep in mind, there's a crucial additional plank to that. In order to do that, without having skyrocketing tariffs that do turn into the kind of cartoon that you're talking about, you also have to eliminate government waste and eliminate agencies that don't need to exist. And what have we been hearing about recently? I'll say this in Trump's defense a little bit. Elon Musk being a czar of government waste, right? He literally will probably be, it sounds like he's gearing up to hold panels, literally hold government agency auditions to basically have these organizations audition for the privilege of continuing to exist. If you did both those things at once, you wouldn't even have to raise tariffs much. You could basically wind up with tariffs just a little bit higher than they are at present and get rid of most inland taxes, and you would still have a fully funded federal government. It would take some time. It would take a commitment to that principle. I don't know if Trump is committed enough to any principle to see that through, but it would be nice. It's a nice pie in the sky to think about for a moment. All right, Liberty Bell. If Trump wins, the trans-ooficide rate will go from 41% to 95%. Go Trump. Axilla, I don't know what that means. Axilla, Kamala's mouth doesn't work as well when nothing is occupying it. What a surprise, right? The Spaz from Rain Man, wish Don would say, yes, I would veto a national ban. Give me your rights, says. With how much they talk about race, you'd think they want to compete against Max Verstappen. Censor Duck, both my favorite anime girls are streaming. Hard to pick between Pippa and Razorfist. You know, I can't compete with an anime girl. I'm sorry. It's the internet. This is their country. DJ Hesselhoff, holy Mao, Batman. Scrody Johnson, Haitians eaten like Alf on drugs. Eating cats like Alf on drugs. I didn't see that emoji. Sorry. Generalissimo Liberty. Once again, Willie Brown's side hoe goes down. Snake Oil Sean. Great stream, Razor. I'm looking forward to Ghost of the Badlands. Part 2. Let me see if I can find that. There we go. I got some additional copies here because we're going to be having a great big celebratory launch stream for Ghost of the Badlands, and I'm going to be giving out some free copies of Ghost of the Badlands, maybe even some posters if I can get a hold of them. So stay tuned. We'll have some special guests. I think George is going to be joining me for that, and that'll be coming up probably in the next week and a half or so. So be on the lookout for that. The great big Ghost of the Badlands extravaganza. For those who don't know, I made a Western graphic novel, spooky Western graphic novel, and people seem to be loving it. So check it out if you are so inclined. Black Bull 77, this is more painful to Philadelphia than the Phillies losing the World Series 2 years ago. I'd say you have my sympathies, but screw you, I'm a Pirates fan. All right, Weeb Mechanic. Yes, I know. Admitting you're a Pirates fan out loud is like a formally diagnosed mental disorder. Weeb Mechanic, damn, Trump's line on taking a piece of lead to the dome because of their horseshit was awesome. Line of the night for me. Maybe not the line of the night, but definitely the closer of the night. He demolished her with that line. Donut Guard. Do you think they kept her away from interviews and made her look bad on purpose to keep expectations so low that this poor performance would seem like overperforming even with all the rehearsal? That's one option. But I think they kept her away because they were over-preparing her. Judging from her performance, I think that's what's been going on the last little while, is she's been locked away just preparing and preparing and preparing. And that's why so many of her responses came off so stilted and boilerplate. And many were just recycled from Biden. And of course they were recycled from Biden. Kamala Harris isn't running for president, guys. The people around Biden right now are running for president. You are, in fact, watch the JFK interview. Watch the RFK Jr. interview on Tucker Carlson. He knows lots of Democrats, right? He's a lifelong Democrat. He's married to Cheryl Hines. He still moves in Democrat circles, the few that still speak to him anyways. And when he talks about Kamala, he'll ask, dude, do you feel good about voting for a woman who can't sit down for an interview, for crying out loud? And their response is, you're not voting for her. You're voting for the apparatus. You're voting for the people around her. RFK Jr. gets it, guys. He gets it. Kamala's not running for president. Right? It's the people around her. It's the foreign policy people, the people who have been running the country while Joe Biden's busy playing with Duplo blocks. Okay, here we go. The Azure Nightmare. I already read that one. Josh Cochran. It was that epic Street Fighter 3 Ken versus Chun-Li parry at 1% health victory. It was pretty brutal. It's not like she didn't land offense, right? I pointed it out at the time. I was like, okay, she got him on the ropes there. Can she close it? And she never could. She never could. And it was like after a while, the moderators just started to realize, oh, she can't close. She can't close. So what's going to happen here is we're going to have to let Trump make his point and then move on. And it made her look worse, I would argue. Okay. Shepherder911 says, Trump said, excuse me, I'm talking, and won the debate. Chris S. Someone called a battered woman shelter. Bass player 2011. The MSM keep going back to the same well with these debates. It's always the same questions. Altris Orenis. Kamala Harris. I'm not Joe. Also Kamala Harris. We need to build back better. Our country. Rubber Legs. I didn't catch that, but that is true. Rubber Legs just want to say Kamala may be able to string a sentence together, but she still can't make it coherent for us. Also, Razor, Thunderbolt forever. Are you talking about Wing Commander? Are you talking about Wing Commander? I see you. I see you. All right. Okay, Yanks fan 84. This was rigged worse than the 1919 World Series. Yeah, and it backfired like the rigging of the 1919 World Series. They went full Black Sox. Turd Fergberg. Can't believe Trump took the I'm speaking line for her. Yep. I think it's the first time something's been taken out of her mouth. Anyway, so Stephen Vaughn, congrats, Razor, on the 10K viewers. I didn't see that, but Godspeed. Across all platforms, I'm sure we did even better than that, but Godspeed to all of you. D70 Origin. The last time I saw brown women with shoulder pads and large foreheads on television, it was on Star Trek, and they were Klingons. What, Quark's wife? Fox McLeod. Hey, Razor, what do you think of Rob Zombie's produced Ramones tribute album? I haven't heard it. I don't know. You know what? I think it is actually in my collection, but I haven't listened to it. I should actually give that a whirl. Thank you for reminding me. I was spinning some Saxon earlier. The new guy. The Dawn grabbed her by the pussy. One-man band. I want to see Vance demolish Tampon Timmy. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting. I wasn't planning to roast the vice presidential debate, but I might do that one. Because Tim Walz is... there's something going on with Tim Walz. When I saw him grab his son's hand that hard with that scowl on his face, I was like, what's going on with this guy? Like, there's just some... He's a few Tumblr clicks away from fully opening the door. I don't know. The Wing Tassar, thank you for the 50, bro. He should ask Kamala if she's a fan of Stefan Banderas's UPA killing pregnant women, UPA killing pregnant women, kids, babies, and priests while they say mass just for being Poles, Roma, or Armenian in World War II. See the movie Hatred, Razor, on par with Solzhenitsyn's Prussian Knights. Thank you for the recommendation, and thank you for the wicked super chat. Best way killer. Trump utterly scorched the earth with the I'm speaking. Remind you of anyone comment? I eagerly await the media spin harder than a Beyblade to try and salvage knee pads Kamala's performance. Cynic in chief. Any way you could do a show with pollster Richard Barris. He does follow me on social media, and we do have a number of mutual acquaintances. Robert Barnes I've been on with a few times, who also has great takes on polls. They do a show together that I highly recommended. What is it? By the Numbers, I think it's called. By the Numbers. If you guys have not been keeping up with the polls and kind of the rigging of them, highly recommend you check out that show. They do a great show week in and week out. But yeah, I'd love to do that. Maybe a RazörForce offensive shows. He knows all the nitty gritty about the polling swings. Yeah, he's a little busy right now making national news appearances, but I'll run it up the flagpole because I really like that guy. Andrew Van Halen, there's more divide on our side about this debate. All right, Abe, she didn't drool on herself, so this is a big Democrat win. Weird, and people think entertainment today is better than something a calculator can come up with. Could you react to the automatic singer and judge it? I don't know what you're talking about. Hugh Mungus. She definitely got the questions beforehand. I agree. Silent Crow. Cat ladies for Trump. The Azure Nightmare. She's been drinking babies that could be from political has-beens with her calico casserole. You think the Chinese eat it with soy sauce? Very nice. Snake Oil Sean. Between Kamala, the moderators, and whomever was on the other end of the earpiece. How many people did Trump beat tonight? No kidding. It was like one of those Hulk Hogan Royal Rumble moments where the 19 people pile on top of him and then he hulks up and they all fly away, right? That's exactly what it was like. All right, Steel Manning, Trumpomania was kind of running wild toward the end of that debate. Steel Manning, maybe the Haitians eating cats will be the thing to flip white women in favor of Trump. They're white women kryptonite. Blast Radius, Kamala is a Marxist, should be trending on X. Rogue, run spot, run! Just Orkin, Kamala looks so scripted and debased, I honestly wonder how a leftist swallows this flip-flop. Speaking of scripted and debased and run spot, run. Did anyone catch before this debate, before we went live, Chris Crisco being interviewed by ABC and basically just trashing Trump for 20 minutes? Oh, he'll claim that he doesn't do debate prep, but he does. And if you tell him it's debate prep, it triggers him and he gets mad. Like, what a catty, low-T bitch. This autistic asteroid. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so you should go back and watch that. Talk about just beta energy. Beta maxing, I call it. All right. Konji and Richard Barris thinks Kamala won, LOL. Really? Ugh. I did not get that tonight. I did not get that. Commander Wolf, God effing speed, Razor, and glory to you and your house. God damn, this was a roasting. This November is going to be very interesting. Was listening while at work. Dear Lord, was I having a laugh at work. Trump for 2024. Full set. Yeah, I don't know why Richard Barris would think that. I don't think Kamala won at all. I think she didn't crap herself. In that sense, I think she held the line better than Biden, and I said that as the debate was happening. But no, I noticed that Trump got more of his shit in than she did. And it usually ended on him making his point. And he had the biggest uppercut of the night, and it landed. Actually, he had more than one, 2 or 3. Kamala like would kind of spout a boilerplate lie, just kind of standard fare. And Trump, but the thing is, Trump usually had a response. So it's like it even if it landed, it wasn't a kill shot. He always had a response. Kamala too many times got hit and hit really, really hard. And then as the moderators realized her responses were bad, they stopped throwing it to her. And it got worse and worse. Maybe he means from an optics perspective. And honestly, I think at that point, you are indulging the mainstream media spin, which is going to be, as we saw, right as we signed off, the clipped-haired mean-face broad at the beginning saying, Trump seemed angry, right? That whole thing, which was, I don't know. I don't really buy that. But anyways, I'd be interested to see his reasoning behind that. Mad Max, every time Kamala pressed about giving $50K to every new small business and $25K to every new homeowner, I was pleading for Trump to respond with, where exactly are you getting that money? John Horn, I remember Maher calling Bush a traitor to the country non-stop. Then when Trump ran, he was suddenly an honorable man. Seriously, F. Bill Maher. He needs some milk. Rich Barris is saying that the debate was just a trap and that Trump had no reason to do it. That I agree with him on. I do agree with it. I didn't think he should even do a debate. The argument was already made when Biden did the debate with Trump, right? We already saw Trump make his case and Biden make his case. Kamala just made Biden's case again slightly more coherently, and I do emphasize slightly. So I do agree. It kind of was a situation that Trump couldn't benefit from. But if you're looking at it from his perspective, it gave him the opportunity to drop 2 or 3 nukes on Kamala's head, which he did giddily. It got his message out there, and it forever inured him to the criticism that, oh, you won't debate. Because if he had not agreed to the debate, all we would hear until Election Day is, oh, bok, Trump is chicken. You would have heard. I mean, geez. When he said, let's do a debate on Fox News, and she said no, the media spun it as Trump doesn't want to debate. So, we clearly see what the playbook would have been. All right. World Canadian Bureau, should Trump have said that he would never sign a national abortion ban? Yes, because we don't. Guys, I mentioned this in my abortion video, my most recent abortion video. You don't want a national abortion ban, because a national abortion ban can be overturned just as easily as Roe v. Wade could. You are getting more of what you want on a state level, and if people want to implement abortion, they have to play whack-a-mole with every single state. They have to win hearts and minds or rig elections, as the case may be, in order to gradually push more and more abortion laws across the country. And the simple fact is, if they manage to pass those laws, that is on the state-level GOP. There's an abortion measure here in Arizona right now. And if it passes, and it's very likely it will be on the Arizona Republican Party for not making the argument, for not standing by their principles. Principled ground that is vacated is ceded to your enemies. And if you don't stand on these principles, then you're not making the arguments. And if you're not making the arguments, you are electorally vulnerable on these issues. So he's completely right. You don't want a national abortion ban. You want state-level abortion bans because they're harder to overturn and they're usually better too. The Azure Nightmare, she's eating babies that could be from Polita. Yeah, I already read that one, sorry. Alan Smithy. Last I heard from Democrats, Dick Cheney was the devil. What changed and why is an endorsement from him a good thing? Simple. The Democratic Party is the party of war. That's it. They're the party of corporate interest and war. They were always the party of corporate interest, and incidentally, they were always the party of war, but they were better at hiding it in the early 2000s. Because, guys, I mean, how many Democrats voted for the Iraq War? Tons. Tons. They only pretended to hate the Iraq War come election season. Flessian, something that always amused me with Kamala Ding Dong is that she was selected, not elected, which should be an accusation that sounds awfully familiar. As always, they accuse others of what they do. M. Champion, am I the only one that thought he didn't do well? I thought he did fantastically. I thought she landed some points, and I pointed it out at the time. But no, he won. He absolutely, that was my and guys, if you watch my breakdown of the last debate, I called that one pretty fairly at the same time. Yeah, I'm roasting it and I'm making jokes at their expense. I am politically right of center. There's no secret where my political sympathies lie. But I called it pretty fairly there. I don't think my perception was blinkered. I think he won. Absolutely. With that said, the spin will be the complete opposite. And I said that at the beginning of this stream. You can go back, roll it back, and watch it. Okay. Eli Gunter, she really had the wind knocked out of her sails when he took her I'm talking line. That seems to be the turning point. Musically assured destruction. Your Trump impression sounds like Tony Soprano. Really? Wait on the gabagoo. Toxic Mix. Gotta be honest, don't think Trump did well here at all. He completely blew responding on the border bill because he got triggered about rallies. He didn't really nail her to the wall how bad her economic policies are. Yes, he did. His closing remarks were overwhelmingly dedicated to her economic policies. Maybe I'm on an island here. You are. You're just wrong. You're just wrong. I think he demolished her, actually. And more importantly, he won the optics battle, which is probably the thing they rigged the most to help Kamala. He won the optics battle because it appeared that it was 3-on-1, and he won. Even if it's 3-on-1 and he loses, he still wins the optics battle, right? So I think he won in the most important way that matters, regardless. But I also just think he won, period. He was way more coherent and way more focused in his answers with one or two exceptions. Other than that, he stuck right to his points. So, yeah. And again, he was way lighter on his feet than Kamala because Kamala had her pre-prepared remarks and whatever was being fed to her in her headset. This is the problem with using a headset, by the way, is it's completely stilted and unnatural. And you wind up having to equivocate and kind of dance around the maypole until you can sort of put your thoughts together and have it make sense. The Azure Nightmare, I already read that. Power Up Pika-Who? Trump sticking to his I just want people to stop dying like tonight was a major W for him with independence. Also, the blatant dogpiling was gross. Nguyen, I don't know if this has been asked, but rest in peace, James Earl Jones. Indeed, rest in peace, James Earl Jones. Just about the only famous person with 3 names who didn't turn out to be a serial killer. All right. Stephen, Quartering and Sticks think Trump didn't do well. I don't know what debate they watched. I think they're full of shit. I'm sorry. Love you, Sticks. Love you, Quartering. Full of shit. Sorry. We covered it in real time. I didn't miss much. I talked over a little bit. But no, the line of the night went to Trump. The lines of the night went to Trump. That, I think, is the biggest mark against Kamala. She really said nothing memorable, right? You have to keep in mind, debates, especially in the modern day, are all about clips and sound bites. What clip of Kamala would you use from this debate? Anyone? I'd love to hear Sticks defend that. I'd love to hear Quartering defend. What would be the sound bite that would be the kill shot the moment that Kamala won? I think they're huffing their own farts. I think that's nonsense. DJ Hesselhoff. You see, she got flustered and wanted to call him something and had to catch herself. She kind of did. Epsilon Sama. My mom's from the DR, and she told me stories of Haitians kidnapping cats and dogs to either eat them or to use them for voodoo magic. I did some volunteer work in that area, and yeah, that's pretty wild. Emperor Creatine had a small talk with my mom about the debate. She thinks Trump looked stupid because he took all the bait Kamala gave out and wouldn't shut up about pets. She also fervently watches Fox News. That explains a lot. Yanks fan 84, she was swaying worse than DSP. Stephen Miller, I thought this was a debate between Trump and Kamala because ABC debated Trump more than Kamala. I will go ahead and refresh one more time, but otherwise I am at the end. Okay, no, there is more. My goodness. Hey, Razor, sorry for the repeats. Before you ever watch Mentis Waiver Prax Ben. I don't know who that is. Mr. Anderson, Trump win because parlay for the win? What? 21st Century Examined Life. Terrence screwed up. Norm voice. Ending up in Japanese hell for being a disgrace to your ancestors. Everyone I know is a disgrace to their ancestors, especially fat and ugly people. Hope I don't run into any down there. Jags Dino God, X trends right now are not going well for Kamala. I think that's the proof in the pudding, guys. I don't understand the black pills from people. Maybe they're just trying to be inordinately even-handed, but man, I don't know what corner of reality someone as otherwise rational as Styx Hexenhammer could say, oh yeah, that was, no, that went great for Kamala. I don't know. Like, really? Her getting caught interrupting and Trump saying, excuse me, I'm speaking, sound familiar? Did that, really? I took a bullet to the head for you, and she stammered in response. Like, these were weak moments, and not just mildly weak moments. These were horribly weak moments for Kamala. Like, if this had happened in the Biden debate, you would be saying, oh yeah, Trump won, just like he won the Biden debate. And guys, let's not mince words here. There are people on the right who said Trump lost the Biden debate initially too. Remember that? It took a little while for that consensus to emerge. Again, this was not as bad a performance for Kamala as it was for Biden. That was historically bad. Right? That was historically, and I said that at the time. I had never seen a debate go worse for somebody. But no, I think Kamala lost there. Okay. Gul Dukat did nothing wrong. Very true. Kamala must have been seething when Trump stole her I'm speaking opportunity. Weird, says the Automatic Singers, an AI heavy metal music based on franchises. It's a YouTube channel. Transformers, 40 Mass Effect characters, bring it up. Okay, whatever. Andrew Seberg, great job streaming tonight. You by far had the best stream of all my favorite content creators tonight. Well, of course, this is the only stream you needed, bitch. Chammer Dicluet, whatever. What do you think the next Street Fighter game should do? This. Real Arcalian, thank you. Somebody already mentioned that. Jake Downey, what's the question you wanted to hear and didn't? What question do you think Trump could have done better on? Guns. They hardly mentioned firearms, really. They brushed up against it a little bit. Kamala tried to transition over to it. I think Trump tried to transition over to it at one point, but they didn't talk much about gun control at all, which is interesting. It's interesting because of the school shooting recently. You would have thought that would be on the docket. You know what I wonder about with that? I mentioned Kamala was overprepared. I mentioned Kamala got the debate questions ahead of time. Did she get those debate questions weeks ago before the shooting? Might explain why there was no section properly devoted to gun control. I'm just saying. Really gets the cashews cooking. All right. Chamber Decluet. What do you... no, I already read that. Read that too. Okay. John Casamassa? Yeah. Kamala stunk worse than a Nurgle fart for the Emperor. Frankie the Tank, 285. Well, Razor, YouTube didn't want me to give you $5, so here's 50. Wow, like reverse Israelite. Also, on the bright side, at least Kamala crashing and burning took the heat off the PS5 Pro plummeting off the mountain. Hail Razor, and hail the Razor Force. Hail to you, sir. Shanth and Jetty Art. Hey, dude, what's up? Put me on the guest list for the Ghost of the Badlands launch. Happy to sign posters for the campaign. Godspeed. You did my man here did an incredible poster for Ghost of the Badlands. I would show you guys, but I would have to open the book, and it's in saran wrap anyways. All right. Sam the Bagman. Who would have thought the woman who slept away to the top can't close? Well, her legs, that is. Skyline for the win. 97. Take that. DC will be a shit show irrespective of who wins. Trump most likely, thank God. Thank Muriel Bowser for that. The people of DC kind of got what they deserve for re-electing her. Jesse Baird, 2115. I don't think I've ever seen a politician spout provable lies on national television like that. Shaking my head. Normally politicians are better liars. Real Arcalian. Lots of conservative pundits blackpilling themselves because Kamala didn't self-destruct. What it's starting to sound like to me is they expected the Biden debate again, and I guess I just didn't expect that and wasn't anticipating that at all. I thought Trump was relatively controlled. He only got sidetracked twice. Kamala got sidetracked several times, and that was a problem. I believe that is the firm reason why the moderators stopped throwing it back for second and third responses, because she was fumbling the ball. She was objectively fumbling the ball. How could Richard Barris not get that? You've watched enough debates, dude. You should have been able to recognize that she was equivocating all over the place. I don't buy that at all. I do not subscribe to that. I'd still respect the hell out of those people, but I could not disagree more. Forrest, I'm hoping that the silver lining of this complete Charlie Foxtrot is that the public who watched and were on the fence are aware of how incredibly rigged and biased the entire Potemkin debate was. Metalhead Madman, howdy Razor, I couldn't watch the debate. How did it go? You will be able to watch the VOD after this, so you can judge for yourself. Weird. Shockingly, no mention on Secret Service funding. Yeah, I wonder why. But they went 20 miles out of their way to avoid mentioning the assassination attempt. Tyler W., I'm not Biden. Anyway, look at what we did. Fire PA, the year's 20XX, and Democrats are still trying to make the Charlottesville hoax work. Rebellions, they might use up the fact that nobody watches the following debates to see what other parts of Trump's platform she can respray and pretend to have invented. Good solid prediction there. Soldier Boy 214. Do you think they'll talk about AI? They did. They did. All right. I think, folks, that is the last. Let me just double check here. What'll be the most normie take from this debate? Trump seemed angry. That was the clear and present immediate spin from the Democrat Party apparatchiks. We actually saw, you could see it on the subtitles there on the side of the screen. That's clearly going to be the play from the media. Trump seemed flustered. Trump seemed angry. No, he didn't. He was Trump. He was Trump. Never raised his voice. Never. No, not at all. He was really controlled. He was as controlled as he was in the first debate. Maybe a little bit less muted. But of course, the things that Kamala was accusing him of, you would expect him to get a little bit more animated. But no, I didn't think he went over the line at all. He was nothing like he is at his rallies, right? Okay. Rogue, considering how people died at a Trump rally because of rabid rhetoric, it's understandable why he'd get heated over the rally comments, to me, at least. Elijah Snow, Sticks was mostly sad Trump didn't roll her the same way he rolled Biden. You're just not... You see, that's what I suspected. That's what I suspected. And I just have to differ with that because at the outset, and you guys can, again, go back to the beginning of the stream, I told you guys, I didn't expect him to just nuke her from orbit, right? Like, I didn't expect this to just be a shelling, because Biden was, he was literally having sundowners on national television. They had him hopped up on rhino steroids or whatever that, stimulant cocktail is they jam into his veins, and he was still completely incoherent. That is not going to happen again. What we witnessed was a debate misadventure on the order of Carter Reagan, on the order of JFK Nixon. Those do not come around but once a generation, maybe. We weren't going to see that. But I do still think he won. But he also clearly stated Trump won. He just wanted a clear money shot. That's fair enough. Blogged One said he won, but he could have done better. Missed out on multiple chances to obliterate her. The quartering was doom-pilling, saying Trump blew it. Said in the chat he still did bad, Quartering said. Oh, Quartering was here in the chat. Hey, dude, what's up? Yeah, I don't think he did bad at all. I don't think he did bad in the slightest. I think he got distracted twice. And I think Kamala got distracted way more than that. And I also think her points were less persuasive. They were essentially the weakest reruns from Biden's debate, delivered slightly more coherently. But of course, when your philosophy and your platform is already incoherent, what does delivering incoherence in a coherent fashion actually avail you? All right. Marussia Dark. They barred an audience because Trump would have brought Kamala's victims the way he did with Hillary. Also, please do a stream with Bill Whittle. Okay. I know Bill Whittle does watch the show. Andrew, really caught my eye when the moderators started to get flustered and sounded like Cackles was starting to cry. Trump was landing key punches. Yeah, that I don't understand the read on Trump not, nailing it. I do think there were points he could have made. There were definitely points. Watch my roast, right? There were times when I chimed in calling her out on a lie, and Trump didn't make the same rejoinder. Most times, though, he would make the same point I did moments later, right? So I don't think he was off his game at all. I really don't. I think he did really, really well, and he was a little bit more energetic than the Biden debate. But honestly, I think what happened in the Biden debate was halfway through, Trump was really, really muted and almost dour, mainly because he understood what we were all witnessing. An old, demented man who didn't understand where he was, or even perhaps the fact that he's the president of the United States. Having a dementia moment on national television and embarrassing himself and his family in front of the nation. I think that's why Trump was so muted in that debate. This time around, there's someone who's, alive, if nothing else. Okay, and I think that is the last of it. One last refresh just to make sure, but I think that is the last of it. The Jim, Razor on the screen. Why are we all so sexist and mean? That was good. But seriously, Kamala seems like she had a good head on her knees. Shoulders. Mr. Wolfgrim, what are 5 metal bands you would recommend? I did a video about this. Go check it out. It is a Metal Mythos mini, something like that. And I recommended, I've done top 5. Actually, I do top 6 because it's metal. Underrated metal bands of the 80s. Top 6 new heavy metal bands. So like heavy metal bands from what is called now the new wave of heavy metal. Bands of just the last like 15 years or so. Because yeah, there's a lot of those actually out there. So check those out. Okay. I think, folks, that is it. I can't believe so many of you still stuck around to hear me mouth off like a retard. But thank you all for doing so. I had an absolute blast, even if the nation probably wouldn't. But folks, until next time, thank you for joining me on this special edition of Streaming for Vengeance. I love you all in the chat. Godspeed, one and all.